People really don't like feeling powerless. Everyone wants power and is always trying to get more. Trying to gain and use power is like a game that everyone plays, whether they realize it or not. You're either someone who has power or someone who is being controlled by others. In his book, The 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene says that since you can't avoid the power game, you might as well become really good at it by learning the rules and strategies that people have used for thousands of years. Greene has come up with 48 rules of power based on stories and writings from the past 3,000 years about people who either succeeded or failed at using power, sometimes with great success and sometimes with terrible consequences. Greene believes that if you follow these rules, you can increase your power, but if you don't, you might end up losing power or even worse. He explains each rule in detail and gives examples and analysis. Many of these rules come from the old aristocratic courts of Europe, where people competed for influence around a powerful leader. There were clear rules and ways of behaving, but only a few people really mastered the art of playing the power game, and not always for long. In these courts, people had to serve the king while also trying to gain more power, protect themselves from others, and make sure no one else became more powerful than them. They acted polite and refined, but they were actually very ambitious and ruthless. However, they also had to be sneaky because if they were too obvious about wanting power, other people who wanted power would turn against them. To stay on top and keep gaining power, people had to be strategic and use tricks, but the most important skill was deception, which they used in many different ways. Since then, not much has changed in the power game. Although it's not as violent anymore, people don't literally lose their heads. To be good at deception, you need to understand how people behave, study the people around you, control yourself, be charming, adapt to different situations, think ahead, and be sneaky. So here are the 48 rules in short. You don't have to follow them in order, and Greene warns that power can be addictive and change the way you see people and their behavior forever. Law 1. Never upstage the boss. The law of power. Ensure that those above you always feel superior. But don't overdo it when trying to impress or please them, or you'll inadvertently make them feel insecure and you'll suffer the backlash. Go out of your way to make your bosses look better and feel smarter than anyone else. When it comes to power, surpassing your boss can be risky business. People in power like to feel secure, smarter, and more deserving of their perks than others. When they feel threatened, they might lash out. Showing off your talents can make others feel jealous and insecure, whether they're your bosses, colleagues, or subordinates. While you shouldn't spend your life worrying about everyone's insecurities, it's crucial to be cautious around superiors because they have more power to harm you. They might not literally chop off heads like kings of old, but they can certainly make your professional life difficult. To avoid upsetting your boss, don't try to impress them with your skills and talents. They might seem appreciative, but they could easily replace you with someone less threatening. They might not admit that you've made them feel insecure, but they'll find other reasons to let you go. Nicolas Fouquet, King Louis XIV's finance minister, learned this the hard way. He threw a lavish party to honor the king, but it was so extravagant that it made the king feel overshadowed. The next day, the king had Fouquet arrested on false charges and replaced him with someone less flashy. Not much has changed since Louis XIV's time. Bosses still need to feel superior. 2 things to keep in mind. You might unintentionally outshine your boss just by being yourself, especially if they're insecure. And just because your boss likes you doesn't mean you can get away with anything. If you take advantage of their favoritism, you'll undermine their authority. To navigate this, flatter your boss discreetly. If you're smarter than them, act naive and seek their advice. If you have better ideas, give credit to your boss publicly. Galileo, the famous astronomer, used flattery to stay in the good graces of the Medici family, who supported his research. When he discovered Jupiter's moons, he associated them with the Medici sons to make the family feel important. Exceptions to the rule. If your boss is weak, you can subtly outshine them to hasten their downfall. If they're about to fall anyway, it's best to stay out of it. And if your boss is strong but you know you're better, bide your time. Power shifts and you might outlast them. Law 2. Be wary of friends, use enemies. The law of power. Keep a close eye on your friends. They easily become envious and resentful, and will undermine you. In contrast, if you promote an enemy, he'll be more loyal than a friend in an effort to prove himself. So use your enemies. If you lack enemies, you should create some. Turning to friends for help is natural, but it might not always be the best idea. You might not know your friends as well as you think. Friends often agree with you to avoid conflict, and they might hide their true feelings to spare your feelings. So, when you're in a position of power, hiring a friend might weaken you. Friendship can cloud your judgment, and you might miss out on hiring someone more skilled. If you do hire a friend, you might discover qualities they've kept hidden. And your act of kindness could unbalance the relationship, leading to resentment and bitterness. Trying to mend the relationship with favors might only make things worse. Enemies, on the other hand, can sometimes be more useful than friends if you can win them over to your side. They can keep you sharp and focused, and you can use them to enhance your reputation among your followers. It's better to have open opposition than hidden enemies, so you know where you stand. Plus, you might be able to convert a declared opponent into an ally. Here are some examples of leaders turning enemies into allies. Talleyrand, Napoleon's foreign minister, teamed up with Fouché, the head of the secret police, to thwart Napoleon's plans. They shared a mutual interest in undermining Napoleon, even though they didn't succeed at the time. Henry Kissinger, Secretary of State, often co-opted those who disagreed with him, like anti-war activists who plotted to kidnap him. He won them over by sharing his plans for ending the Vietnam War. Chinese Emperor Sung invited his enemy, King Shu, to his palace and surprised him with evidence of his conspiracy against him. Shu realized he was being spared and became one of Sung's loyal followers. However, there are times when friends can be more useful, like when you need someone to do risky tasks or be a scapegoat if things go wrong. Just be careful not to lose a valuable friend in the process. Law 3. Hide what you're up to. The law of power. Always hide your true intentions. If you keep people off balance and in the dark, they can't counter your efforts. Send them down the wrong path with a red herring or create a smokescreen, and by the time they realize what you're up to, it will be too late for them to interfere. Part 1. Using decoys and red herrings. Sublaw. Mislead to deceive. To hide your true intentions, employ decoys and red herrings preemptively. Utilize tactics like feigned sincerity, ambiguity, and bait, blurring the lines between genuine and false to obscure your true objectives. Principles. Many wear their emotions openly and readily divulge their plans and intentions at the slightest prompting. However, complete honesty carries its own risks. Rather than endearing oneself, honesty can often offend. It's often wiser to speak what people want to hear rather than the unflattering truth. Transparency may lead to a lack of respect or fear, as predictability diminishes the power dynamic. In contrast, maintaining a degree of secrecy grants leverage. Concealment comes naturally as humans tend to trust surface appearances, sparing themselves the cognitive strain of doubting the reality beneath. By presenting a decoy or red herring, something ostentatious but misleading, observers readily accept the facade as truth, remaining oblivious to your true agenda. For instance, divert attention from your genuine aims by appearing to support an idea previously opposed. Most will assume a genuine change of heart, as shifts in allegiance are typically perceived as sincere. Conversely, feign interest in something you truly have no stake in, leaving adversaries bewildered and prone to miscalculation. In 1711, the Duke of Marlborough, aiming to obliterate a French fort impeding his invasion route into France, orchestrated a decoy. Ostensibly fortifying the stronghold, he enticed the French into attacking and, upon regaining control, strategically destroyed it, clearing the path for his advance. Employ false sincerity. False sincerity serves as an effective red herring, luring observers off course. Mistaken for genuine honesty due to human inclination to trust appearances, it lends credence to your assertions. For instance, Iago manipulated Othello by feigning deep concern over Desdemona's alleged infidelity. Othello, trusting in Iago's false sincerity, fell victim to his deceit. However, overdoing this act may arouse suspicion. To heighten its effectiveness, publicly extol honesty as a societal virtue. Occasional disclosure of seemingly personal but fabricated or irrelevant information further reinforces the illusion of sincerity. Putting decoys into action. Otto von Bismarck, serving as a deputy in the Prussian parliament, employed a decoy to steer the nation toward war. In the mid-1800s, amid debates over unification and potential conflict with Austria, Bismarck, though secretly favoring war, voiced opposition to the idea in a speech. Praise for Austria further masked his true intentions. Confusion ensued, but the immediate threat of war dissipated. Elevated to a cabinet minister, Bismarck clandestinely bolstered the army and forged political alliances. Ultimately, he rose to prominence, leading Prussia to victory over Austria and the unification of Germany. Part 2. Employing smokescreens. Sublaw. Conceal behind familiarity. A potent tactic in deception is veiling your true intentions beneath a facade of comfort and familiarity. A smokescreen of your own making. One of the most effective smokescreens is assuming a bland demeanor and expression, lulling your target into a false sense of security as they unwittingly walk into your trap. Principles. Contrary to expectation, the most adept deceivers don't rely on charisma or elaborate tales. Instead, they cloak themselves in mildness and simplicity. Utilize recognizable scenarios and behaviors, a smokescreen, to lull targets into a state of trust and complacency. Once engaged with something familiar, they remain oblivious to the real machinations underway. This works because individuals typically focus on one aspect at a time, failing to detect the hidden agenda behind the benign facade. A decoy, in contrast, deliberately attracts attention overtly, whereas a smokescreen subtly induces a state of inattention or lethargy. The simplest form of a smokescreen is an inscrutable facial expression. For instance, in negotiations, Secretary of State Henry Kissinger employed a monotone voice, neutral expression, and repetitive details to lull counterparts into a false sense of security, only to spring forth with forceful demands, catching them off guard. Smokescreens can exploit psychological vulnerabilities to achieve distraction and misdirection. 1. Present a noble gesture. People are drawn to noble acts, often missing the ulterior motives hidden beneath. A noble gesture serves as an effective smokescreen, veiling alternative intentions. For example, the establishment of the National Gallery of Art in 1937 appeared as a benevolent act by wealthy donors. However, beneath the surface, it concealed a solution to art dealer Joseph Devine's dilemma of limited display space for his paintings, while simultaneously driving up market prices. 2. Establish a deceptive pattern. By creating a series of actions that appear to follow a predictable course, a smokescreen convinces targets to anticipate one outcome while you pursue another. Breaking this pattern catches them off guard, furthering your true agenda. For instance, in 1878, Jay Gould employed a sequence of strategic maneuvers to divert attention from his intention to seize control of Western Union, culminating in a successful takeover bid. 3. Exploit the tendency to equate appearance with reality. By seamlessly blending into a group or environment, you evade suspicion and utilize the cover to advance your concealed objectives. During the Cold War, British civil servants passed secrets to the Soviets by assimilating into the establishment seamlessly, leveraging the camouflage of familiarity. Crafting a bland persona and maintaining inconspicuousness necessitates patience and restraint. However, your enigmatic aura fosters an illusion of power. Putting smokescreens into action. Number 1. Joseph Weil, known as the Yellow Kid, ensnared Chicago businessman Sam Giesel by orchestrating an elaborate trap disguised as a business deal. As Giesel engaged in what he believed to be a property transaction, Weil revealed his true intentions, a scheme to defraud Giesel by coercing him into betting his funds on a rigged boxing match. The ostensible deal served as a smokescreen, lulling Giesel into complacency and enabling Weil's deceit. Putting smokescreens into action. Number 2. In the 1920s, Ethiopian leader Haile Selassie employed apparent innocence to disarm military leader Balcha, who conspired against him. Hosting a banquet, Selassie charmed Balcha into a false sense of superiority. While Balcha was distracted, Selassie's troops encircled his forces, ultimately securing victory without direct confrontation. Exceptions to the law. Diversionary tactics falter if you're already perceived as deceitful. Admitting past transgressions and feigning repentance may mitigate suspicion, allowing you to continue your deceptions. Occasionally, conspicuous gestures can serve as effective diversions. For instance, the charlatans of 17th and 18th century Europe utilized grand spectacles to divert attention from their deceptive practices. However, such tactics possess inherent limitations, as public scrutiny eventually unveils the underlying motives. Conversely, the subtle guise of mild-mannered deception can persist indefinitely. Law 4. Say as little as possible. The law of power. The less you say, the more intimidating and powerful you are. When you do speak, make it vague and ambiguous, leaving the meaning to others to interpret. They'll be frustrated and obsessed with trying to figure you out. In the game of power, how you present yourself matters most. Keeping quiet can make you appear strong, intimidating, and enigmatic. Consider these guidelines. 1. Silence makes others uneasy. People dislike uncertainty, so when you control your words, they struggle to decipher your thoughts and intentions. 2. Short responses and silence put others on edge. They rush to fill the void, often revealing vulnerabilities in the process. Their fixation on your brief remarks only amplifies your influence. 3. Generally, saying less lends an air of significance and mystery to your persona. Andy Warhol, for instance, wielded more influence by speaking sparingly and leaving his remarks open to interpretation. 4. Speaking less also minimizes the risk of saying something regrettable. Take the cautionary tale of Russian rebel Ryliev, whose outspokenness led to his demise. Applying the law, King Louis XIV employed brevity and silence to assert dominance. His reticence left others uncertain and vulnerable, maintaining his control over them. Conversely, the ancient Roman hero Coriolanus failed to heed this advice. His verbosity cost him a political victory, as his boastful speeches alienated potential supporters. Exceptions. 1. Silence can breed suspicion, especially among superiors. Ambiguous remarks might backfire, leading to misunderstandings. 2. Sometimes, feigning foolishness can be strategic, especially when dealing with authority figures. By appearing harmless, you deflect suspicion. 3. Words can serve as a smokescreen, concealing your true intentions. Engaging in conversation can distract others and disarm their suspicions. Law 5. Guard your reputation. The law of power. Reputation is integral to power. With a strong reputation, you can influence and intimidate others. Beware of attacks on your reputation and squelch them immediately. Meanwhile, undermine your opponent's reputations. Understanding others completely is nearly impossible. Yet, in our interactions, we rely on what we can perceive, appearances. This encompasses style, words, gestures, and behavior, all of which contribute to your reputation. Reputation is a crucial asset that requires careful cultivation and protection. When you control how others perceive you, you wield power. Your reputation alone can intimidate and influence others, underscoring the importance of fiercely guarding and enhancing it. When crafting your reputation, focus on one defining quality, such as cunning, effectiveness, or generosity. This characteristic should be memorable, widely demonstrated, and spoken about by others. It serves as your calling card, preceding you and predisposing others to be influenced by you. A robust reputation magnifies your strengths, instills fear, and commands respect. Your past achievements serve as predictors of future success. For example, General Rommel's cunning reputation intimidated even when outnumbered. Building a reputation may involve associating with individuals of an opposite reputation to improve your own. For instance, if seen as dishonest, aligning with an honest individual can enhance your credibility. Safeguard your reputation vigilantly, preempting and deflecting attacks. However, avoid appearing defensive, which may signal insecurity. Attacking someone else's reputation, particularly a more powerful individual, can yield benefits. Yet, it requires tact to avoid appearing petty or harming your own reputation. For instance, Thomas Edison's attempt to discredit Nikola Tesla backfired and tarnished his own reputation. With a solid reputation, you can subtly undermine your opponent's reputation through ridicule or satire. Illustrating the law, General Liang's reputation as a deceiver deterred an opponent's advance, showcasing the power of reputation. Conversely, P.T. Barnum lacked reputation initially. To establish himself, he targeted Peale's museum, tarnishing its reputation through a letter-writing campaign and debunking its popular exhibit on hypnotism. Exceptions. Developing and maintaining a strong reputation remains imperative, with no exceptions. Law 6. Attract attention. The law of power. We judge everyone and everything by appearances. What we can't see doesn't count. Make sure you stand out from the crowd. Portray yourself as larger, more mysterious, and more exciting than anyone around you. Sublaw. Embrace controversy and outrage. Principles. Standing out in a crowd requires deliberate effort. Associate yourself with something distinct, whether it's a unique clothing style, hairstyle, mannerism, or eccentricity that sparks conversation. All attention, regardless of its nature, contributes to your power. P.T. Barnum thrived on controversy, deliberately fostering an image as a showman without feeling the need to defend himself against criticism. Society is drawn to individuals who defy convention and command attention. Embrace controversy, as being talked about even negatively is preferable to being ignored. Whether you're an entertainer or a professional, adopting a showman's attitude can benefit you. For instance, Thomas Edison captivated audiences by orchestrating grand exhibitions of his inventions and delivering imaginative speeches about future innovations. He ensured he outshone his rival Nikola Tesla, leveraging his fame over Tesla's superior intellect. If you find yourself in obscurity, gaining attention can be achieved by targeting someone more prominent or influential than you. Even slanderous attacks can garner notice, though moderation is advised as excessive controversy can become tiresome. Maintaining attention requires adaptability. Continuously innovate and surprise your audience to prevent them from taking you for granted or being lured away by novelty. For example, Pablo Picasso retained public interest by defying artistic norms. When his work became associated with specific styles, he boldly shifted to entirely new approaches, captivating audiences and earning their respect. Illustrating the law. P.T. Barnum capitalized on notoriety early in his career when a prank orchestrated by his circus boss led to a mob mistaking him for a notorious acquitted murderer. Rather than shying away from the incident, Barnum leveraged it to draw crowds to the circus, showcasing the power of controversy to generate interest. Barnum continued to use similar tactics throughout his career, spreading rumors about his performers' authenticity to attract audiences. He understood the allure of the unusual, orchestrating stunts like paying a man to walk through the streets and his museum, randomly handling bricks, which piqued people's curiosity and drove them to investigate. When seeking attention, welcome both positive and negative reactions. Barnum even went as far as writing letters to newspapers criticizing his own work to ensure his name remained in the public eye. For him, any form of attention was instrumental in achieving success. Sublaw. Cultivate mystique. Principles. Throughout history, humans have been drawn to mysteries and enigmas, seeking explanations for the inexplicable. Even in modern times, amidst scientific understanding, the allure of the mysterious remains potent, captivating imagination and instilling awe. You can harness this fascination by cultivating an air of mystery around yourself. Through deliberate ambiguity, occasional inconsistency, and restrained communication, you can create an aura of intrigue that compels others to decipher your intentions and actions. Con artists adeptly employ mystery to beguile and distract their victims. By appearing enigmatic, they divert attention while executing their schemes. For instance, Victor Lustig, posing as a count, employed eccentricities and ambiguous behavior to captivate his targets, leaving them unaware of his deceit. The benefits of appearing mysterious are manifold. 1. Perception of brilliance. Even average individuals can appear profound and brilliant when shrouded in mystery. Mata Hari, though not exceptional in beauty or talent, entranced audiences with her exotic allure and ever-changing persona. 2. Psychological advantage. Mystery places others on the defensive, instilling uncertainty and fear. Leaders like Mao Zedong utilized unpredictability to command attention and maintain authority. To effectively employ mystery, Periodically introduce actions or behaviors that defy expectations, ensuring continual intrigue and focus on your persona. Illustrating the law. 1. Hannibal's escape. Facing a Roman blockade, Hannibal orchestrated a perplexing spectacle of lights and sounds, enabling his army's escape. By creating confusion and fear through incomprehensible actions, he exploited the power of mystery to evade capture. 2. Mata Hari's success. Mata Hari, a dancer of modest skill, captivated Europe with her enigmatic performances. Constantly altering her stories, music, and attire, she remained an enigma, garnering wealth and influence until her eventual downfall. Exceptions to the law. While cultivating mystery is advantageous, overdoing it can evoke fear or insecurity, undermining your power. Balance is crucial, ensuring that your mystique remains engaging rather than threatening. Additionally, in certain contexts, such as in the presence of superiors or royalty, seeking excessive attention may backfire, leading to ostracism or dismissal. Lola Montez's downfall serves as a cautionary tale against breaching social norms and appearing overly attention-seeking. Law 7. Take credit for others' work. The law of power. Get others to do your work for you. Use their skill, time, and energy to further your ambitions while taking full credit. You'll be admired for your efficiency and accomplishments, while your helpers will be forgotten. Sublaw. Exploit others' efforts. Principles. Efficiency is achieved by leveraging the work of others, saving time and energy while appearing exceptionally productive. Taking credit for others' accomplishments enhances one's perceived power and productivity. There are 2 methods of exploiting others' efforts. 1. Passive exploitation. Wait for others to complete the work, then claim credit for it. 2. Active exploitation. Direct others to work for you and take credit for their achievements. Similar to vultures scavenging carcasses, individuals can capitalize on the labor of others, circling opportunistically to reap the rewards. Complaining about this reality is futile. Instead, adopting a vulture-like approach is advantageous. Illustrating this principle, Francisco Pizarro seized credit for Balboa's discovery of the Incan Empire by orchestrating his downfall, thereby appropriating the riches and acclaim for himself. Alternatively, Peter Paul Rubens employed a proactive strategy, recruiting numerous skilled painters to execute his commissions efficiently. By presenting a high volume of work, Rubens cultivated an image of exceptional productivity and talent. Utilizing others' efforts not only amplifies one's output but also fosters the perception of extraordinary ability. Conversely, attempting to undertake all tasks independently leads to diminished accomplishments or exploitation by others. Additionally, leveraging the contributions of predecessors accelerates progress and innovation. Isaac Newton and Shakespeare built upon the foundations laid by earlier scholars and writers, enhancing their own reputations in the process. Demonstrating the law. Thomas Edison capitalized on Nikola Tesla's brilliance, repeatedly claiming credit for Tesla's innovations. Edison's manipulation of Tesla's work, including reneging on promises and sabotaging his efforts, epitomizes the exploitation of others' labor for personal gain. Exceptions to the law. While exploiting others' efforts can be advantageous, it must be executed judiciously. 1. Avoid appearing opportunistic or overshadowing colleagues, particularly in the absence of a robust reputation. 2. Exercise caution not to overshadow superiors by greedily seeking credit, as exemplified by Henry Kissinger's strategic deference to President Nixon during historic events like the visit to China. Law 8. Bait your enemy. The law of power. Make your opponent come to you. When you force others to act, you're in control. Bait them, then attack. Many individuals attain power through aggression, yet this approach carries inherent drawbacks. As reliance on aggression persists, one must continually launch attacks against an expanding array of adversaries, leading to exhaustion. At this juncture, complete control diminishes, replaced by reactionary behavior devoid of calculated foresight. True power emanates from effective action rather than sheer aggression. Often, strategic patience, such as laying traps and awaiting their fruition, proves more efficacious, securing victory in the long term rather than fleeting triumphs. Rather than reacting to opponents, maintaining the initiative by compelling them to respond to you establishes dominance. This entails controlling emotions and capitalizing on adversaries' emotional responses when pressured or baited. The strategy of making others come to you, exemplified by historical instances like Talleyrand's maneuver with Napoleon, yields potent advantages. Such tactics drain opponents' energy, confine them to your domain, and foster defensiveness, all while positioning you as the orchestrator of events. Subtlety and manipulation play crucial roles in crafting alluring traps, inducing opponents to believe they hold control despite being ensnared. The greedier an opponent, the more susceptible they become to such baits, as seen in Daniel Drew's stock market manipulations. Illustrating this principle, Talleyrand orchestrated Napoleon's return to power, only to orchestrate his ultimate downfall. Through meticulous planning and strategic patience, Talleyrand seized the upper hand and ensnared his adversary in a fatal trap. Exceptions to this strategic approach exist, notably when sudden aggression proves effective. Surprise attacks prompt rapid, uncalculated responses from adversaries, capitalizing on fear and confusion to maintain control. Ultimately, the choice between patient manipulation and sudden aggression hinges on the specific circumstances. Whether depleting adversaries' strength through strategic luring or exploiting moments of weakness with swift attacks depends on the balance of power and the desired outcome. Law 9, don't argue, demonstrate. The law of power, arguing your point rarely changes anyone's mind. Even when you appear to win, you lose because you stir up resentment. A far better way of getting others to agree with you is to demonstrate your point without saying anything. People believe what they can see. When engaging in debate, even apparent agreement from your counterpart doesn't guarantee genuine accord. They might politely concur while harboring resentment or feeling slighted by your choice of words. People inherently distrust verbal exchanges, knowing that rhetoric can be manipulated with fabricated sources and statistics to fortify arguments. Instead of verbal sparring, demonstrating your point wields greater efficacy and power. Visual evidence leaves little room for misinterpretation. Sir Christopher Wren, the British architect, exemplified this approach when confronted with skepticism regarding the stability of a town hall he designed. Rather than engaging in debate, Wren installed additional columns to assuage concerns. Subsequently, discovery of the columns' non-contact with the ceiling validated Wren's foresight. By opting for demonstration over argumentation, opponents remain receptive without feeling defensive, enhancing the likelihood of agreement. Michelangelo applied this strategy masterfully during the creation of his renowned statue of David. When the mayor of Florence criticized the nose's size, Michelangelo invited him to inspect it from a different angle. By altering the mayor's perspective, Michelangelo avoided conflict, preserved his relationship with a patron, and successfully conveyed his point without verbal dispute. However, there exists a strategic exception to this principle. When caught in deception, fervent argumentation serves as a diversionary tactic. Count Victor Lustig, a cunning con artist, utilized this ploy when confronted by a sheriff after a failed scam. Employing baffling terminology and emotional fervor, Lustig deflected blame onto the sheriff, ultimately evading repercussions for his deceitful actions. Law 10. Misery is contagious. Avoid it like the plague. The law of power. People who are perpetually miserable spread misery like an infection, and they'll drown you in it. Avoid these people like the plague. Conversely, if you associate with happy people, you'll share in the good fortune they attract and spread. Seek them out. Some people suffer due to circumstances beyond their control, warranting sympathy and assistance. However, others inflict unhappiness upon themselves and those around them through their destructive behaviors and negative influence. Attempting to change or improve such individuals is futile. Instead, they will likely alter and afflict you with their issues. People are highly susceptible to the emotions and pathologies of those they spend time with, particularly those who are chronically miserable and unstable. These individuals wield significant influence due to the intensity of their negativity and tendency to portray themselves as victims. By the time you realize their destructive nature, you may already find yourself ensnared in their web. When striving for power, the company you keep can determine your success or downfall. Associations with such negative influences not only waste time but also tarnish your reputation through guilt by association. One of the most detrimental types of negative influencers is the perpetually dissatisfied and aggrieved individual. Cassius, who conspired against Caesar, exemplifies such misery. His discontent and envy infected Brutus, leading to one of history's great tragedies. Protecting yourself necessitates vigilance in monitoring the people you surround yourself with. Pay attention to their impact on others and recognize warning signs early on. Negative influencers often exhibit traits such as self-inflicted misery, discontent, tumultuous histories, failed relationships, and unstable careers. Avoid the temptation to pity such individuals, as attempting to help them will only entangle you in their issues while they remain unchanged. Conversely, seek out individuals who attract happiness and spread positivity. Associating with them allows you to bask in their positive energy and fortunes. Whether it's happiness, success, friendliness, charm, creativity, or generosity, positive qualities of others can influence you beneficially. Strive to associate with individuals who possess qualities you lack, thereby enriching your own character. However, avoid those who exhibit similar character flaws as they reinforce negative traits. While exceptions to this law are non-existent, cautionary tales like that of Lola Montez underscore the dangers of associating with those who spread misery. Lola's destructive path left a trail of ruined lives, emphasizing the importance of promptly severing ties with such negative influences. Law 11. Be needed. The law of power. The more that a superior needs you, the more security and freedom you have to pursue your goals, so make him dependent on you. Never let superiors think they can get along without you. A significant aspect of wielding power is compelling others to act in accordance with your desires. While coercion is one approach, the most favorable outcome is when individuals willingly carry out your bidding. Achieving this entails making them reliant on you. This principle applies across all levels of interaction but holds particular advantages when dealing with superiors, allowing you to function as the clandestine power behind the throne. By rendering yourself indispensable to your superior, deeply ingrained in every facet of their operations, removing you would result in significant setbacks. This grants you the upper hand, facilitating the attainment of your objectives. Contrary to common belief, true power necessitates relationships with allies, adversaries, and superiors. Complete independence offers freedom but not power. Conversely, when others depend on you, you possess the autonomy to pursue your goals. Otto von Bismarck exemplifies this concept through his service to two feeble Prussian kings, Frederick and William. Recognizing their reliance on him, Bismarck orchestrated their acquiescence to his directives, threatening to abandon them should they disobey. Securing a position of indispensability involves possessing an irreplaceable skill or talent. Much like Michelangelo's unmatched artistic prowess ensured his indispensability to the Pope, cultivating a unique and invaluable ability solidifies your position. Alternatively, indirect dependency can be established by positioning yourself as a critical link in a chain of reliance. John Howard Lawson's connection to Humphrey Bogart shielded him from dismissal by Columbia Pictures during the McCarthy era, showcasing the potency of this strategy. To maintain your superior's dependency, focus on either one exceptional skill, as Michelangelo did, or a diverse range of talents. However, a singular extraordinary skill offers greater mobility and thus more power. Furthermore, possessing privileged knowledge, such as secrets, bolsters your indispensability. Intelligence chiefs throughout history, like J. Edgar Hoover, utilized this tactic to secure their positions, albeit at the cost of perpetual paranoia. Expecting gratitude for your indispensable services is futile. Instead, anticipate resentment or fear from your superior. Fear, unlike love, ensures job security as it is more manageable. To implement this strategy effectively, consistently reaffirm your indispensability and remain vigilant for potential replacements. Like Renaissance military leaders who fell from grace due to perceived threats, safeguard your position by ensuring no viable alternatives emerge. In emulating Bismarck's approach, forge a mutually dependent relationship with your superior, gradually solidifying your indispensability until they cannot afford to part ways with you. While total independence may seem appealing, it often invites isolation and animosity, necessitating the cultivation of mutual dependence for sustained power and influence. Law 12. Disarm others by being nice. The law of power. You can use honesty and generosity to disarm and distract others from your schemes. It works because even the most suspicious people respond emotionally, like a child, to acts of kindness. Deception and diversion often work hand in hand. Distraction provides the opportunity to execute deceitful schemes without detection. Surprisingly, one of the most effective methods of diversion is to startle others with displays of honesty or generosity. This tactic disarms suspicion and evokes childlike gratitude, rendering individuals more susceptible to manipulation. Known as giving before taking in Chinese culture, this strategy involves offering a distraction, such as a physical gift, an act of kindness, or a candid admission, while executing one's true intentions unnoticed. Generosity serves as another potent tool of diversion. Gifts, whether tangible or gestures of kindness, have a profound impact on emotions, captivating even the most skeptical individuals. However, sincerity is paramount. Insincerity undermines trust irreparably. Victor Lustig, a renowned con artist, exploited this tactic to swindle Al Capone, a notorious gangster. By feigning honesty and returning a large sum of money with an apology for his failed promise, Lustig disarmed Capone, who rewarded him generously. Exceptions arise when fake generosity or honesty fails to deceive due to a pre-existing reputation for deceit. In such cases, embracing one's reputation as a scoundrel may prove more effective. Talleyrand, a known deceiver, employed blatant lies to obscure his true intentions successfully. Similarly, Lustig's brazen request for a bribe while attempting to sell the Eiffel Tower lent credibility to his scheme, as it aligned with the perceived dishonesty of government officials. In a curious twist, embracing one's dishonesty transparently may serve as a smokescreen for ulterior motives. Law 13. Show others what's in it for them. The law of power. When you need help from someone in a position of power, don't talk about your needs or something you did for them in the past. Instead, appeal to their self-interest. They'll be glad to help if they'll get something important to them in return. Gaining power often involves seeking assistance from those in higher positions, but the approach to making requests is crucial. Instead of solely focusing on your own needs, prioritize understanding the desires of the other person. Directing attention to your own desires can make you appear desperate or bothersome to them. Similarly, appealing to irrelevant factors like loyalty or past favors can be ineffective. To effectively persuade, demonstrate how fulfilling your request benefits the other person. Identify their motivations and goals, putting yourself in their shoes. For instance, consider if they have ambitions or adversaries you could assist with. A historical example illustrates the importance of appealing to self-interest. In the 16th century, Portugal's attempts to convert Japan to Catholicism hindered trade negotiations. In contrast, the Dutch offered expertise in firearms and navigation, aligning with Japan's interests and securing trade relations. When requesting from someone powerful, appeals to justice or gratitude may backfire if they prioritize self-interest. Stefano di Poggio's intervention in a conflict failed to earn him favor with Castruccio, who ultimately imprisoned and executed him. Conversely, the island of Corcyra's representative successfully secured Athens' alliance by emphasizing future benefits, rather than past favors, unlike Corinth's representative. Exceptions exist for individuals who derive satisfaction from altruism and benevolence. For them, providing opportunities to display generosity may be more effective than appealing solely to self-interest. Law 14. Seem like a friend, but be a spy. The law of power. Collecting information through spying is essential to wielding power. When you know your opponent's secrets, you can predict his behavior and control him. You can enlist spies to gather intelligence for you, but it's better to be a spy yourself. Adopt a friendly manner and you'll get people to spill their plans and weaknesses. To wield power effectively, you must grasp the intentions, goals, and secrets of others, enabling you to anticipate their actions. Since people seldom disclose such information willingly, you must uncover it covertly. There are two primary methods to achieve this: 1. Employ spies. Utilizing individuals, such as those affiliated with your target, as informants yields valuable insights but carries risks. Spies may inadvertently compromise your plans or turn against you. 2. Assume the role of a spy. Adopt a friendly demeanor and practice active listening. By feigning friendship and encouraging others to speak while revealing little yourself, you can glean significant information. Additional strategies include: attend social gatherings attentively, where people are relaxed and forthcoming. Display genuine interest in others while refraining from overtly prying for information. Employ subtle traps by disseminating false information and observing reactions to discern hidden truths. Engage in simulated confidences to prompt genuine disclosures from others. Alternatively, provoke disagreement to elicit unintended revelations. Talleyrand, France's foreign minister, epitomized this approach, skillfully extracting information through affable conversation while concealing his own intentions. Implementing these tactics grants you predictive power over others' behavior, facilitating strategic planning. In practice, Joseph Devine, a renowned art dealer, adeptly utilized clandestine knowledge to cultivate Andrew Mellon as a prized client. By acquiring insights into Mellon's preferences and orchestrating chance encounters, Devine positioned himself as a trusted advisor and secured Mellon's patronage. However, be mindful that while you spy on others, they may reciprocate. This presents an opportunity to disseminate false information, undermining their surveillance efforts. During World War II, British counterintelligence misled German spies, resulting in inaccurate targeting of rocket bombs aimed at London. In essence, spying furnishes you with invaluable foresight, while the strategic dissemination of misinformation neutralizes adversaries' surveillance attempts. Law 15. Annihilate your enemy. The law of power. Crush your enemy completely. If you leave even one ember smoldering, it will eventually ignite. You can't afford to be lenient. Throughout history, leaders have often shown mercy to their defeated enemies, only to face resentment and eventual retaliation. Enemies harbor intense animosity and seek to eliminate their adversaries. Therefore, to ensure security and peace, it's imperative to treat them as they would treat you. When you gain the upper hand, hesitate not to deliver a decisive blow, whether by neutralizing their ability to fight back or by banishing them entirely. For instance, in the 1930s, Chiang Kai-shek nearly obliterated Mao Zedong's communists, diverting his attention to the invading Japanese. However, over time, the communists regrouped and ultimately overpowered Chiang's forces, compelling him to seek refuge in Taiwan. Total control over your enemies is paramount. Offer no concessions or options. Negotiation undermines your victory and jeopardizes your security. Therefore, it's crucial to crush them decisively. Empress Wu of China exemplified this principle during her 40-year reign, one of China's lengthiest. Rising from a concubine to imperial power, she eliminated every rival without exception. Employing ruthless tactics, including infanticide, poisoning, and executions, she secured her position and even declared herself a divine emperor. By eliminating all threats, she maintained control until forced to abdicate at the age of 80. Exceptions to this approach are rare. In certain circumstances, allowing defeated opponents to self-destruct may suffice, particularly if they are demoralized or depleted. However, leniency risks embittering or emboldening enemies, making it generally preferable to crush them utterly. Law 16. Don't wear out your welcome. The law of power. Once you've become well-known and admired, don't wear out your welcome. The more you're seen and heard from after a certain point, the more you cheapen your brand. People will lose interest and respect for you. But if you make yourself scarce for a while, you'll renew people's respect and appreciation. In the realm of power dynamics, the concepts of presence and absence play pivotal roles. A strong presence commands attention and dominance, overshadowing others. However, excessive visibility can lead to indifference and a loss of influence. This is where the strategic use of absence becomes crucial. By withdrawing at the opportune moment, just before saturation sets in, one can maintain and even augment their status. This principle mirrors the dynamics of seduction and love. When a lover begins to take one for granted, a strategic retreat without explanation revitalizes their desire. Upon returning, they are cherished and respected anew. Similarly, authors like J.D. Salinger and Thomas Pynchon captivated audiences by deliberately withdrawing from the public eye. The principle of scarcity holds sway in economics as well. Items that are scarce are perceived as valuable. Joseph Devine, the art dealer, understood this well, artificially limiting the availability of paintings to inflate their worth. Similarly, individuals can elevate their own worth by ensuring their skills are perceived as unique and in demand. Timing is paramount in managing one's presence. Recognizing when to step back can preserve respect and relevance. Greta Garbo, for example, retired from acting in her mid-30s, preempting any decline in her popularity. By making oneself less accessible, their value in the eyes of others is enhanced. Illustrating this principle is the story of Deioces, who in the 8th century BC sought to rule over Media. He first established himself as a fair arbiter, attracting people seeking judgments. Suddenly withdrawing from public life, chaos ensued, prompting a clamor for his return. Ascending to kingship, Deioces continued to cultivate an aura of scarcity, interacting with others solely on his own terms. This approach earned him immense respect and an enduring reign. Exceptions to this principle exist. Making oneself scarce is effective only after achieving a certain level of power and respect. Without prior recognition, one risks being forgotten rather than missed. Similarly, withdrawing from a romantic partner is meaningful only if one has already established a significant presence in their life. Law 17. Be unpredictable. The law of power. Because people crave predictability and a sense of control, you can throw others off balance and even terrify them with random, unpredictable acts. While your opponents are stressing themselves out by trying to explain and anticipate what you're doing, you can achieve your objectives almost unnoticed. Unpredictable, sudden occurrences like tornadoes and flash floods evoke fear and uncertainty, leaving people apprehensive about what might happen next. Similarly, you can wield considerable influence by embracing unpredictability. While humans and animals tend to gravitate towards predictability for the sake of comfort and security, unpredictability serves as a potent tool for wielding power. By veering from expected norms and routines, you instill fear and confusion, keeping others off balance and opening avenues for maneuvering. Moreover, your unpredictability may induce adversaries to make critical errors. This strategy can be leveraged effectively even when facing superior opponents. During the Civil War, General Stonewall Jackson bewildered and thwarted the larger Union forces by employing unpredictable maneuvers, creating a strategic advantage for the Confederate forces. Unpredictability garners attention and stimulates discussion as people endeavor to decipher your motives. By keeping others guessing, you not only instill fear but also command respect. Illustrating this principle is the case of chess prodigy Bobby Fischer, who unsettled Russian champion Boris Spassky during their 1972 match in Reykjavik, Iceland. Fischer's erratic behavior and unpredictable moves drove Spassky to distraction, ultimately leading to his resignation from the match. Exceptions to this principle exist. In certain situations, predictability can serve as a smokescreen, allowing you to execute your plans without arousing suspicion. Additionally, sustained unpredictability can erode trust and credibility, especially in subordinate positions, leading to closer scrutiny and potential repercussions. Hence, it's essential to wield this tactic judiciously. Law 18. Don't isolate yourself. The law of power. Never isolate yourself when you come under pressure. This just cuts you off from information you need and people who could help you, and when real danger arises you won't see it coming. Instead, make a point of being outgoing. Contact with others increases your power. It might seem appealing to retreat into isolation when faced with pressure or threats, but this is a flawed approach. Most military leaders recognize the peril of isolating oneself within fortified walls. Firstly, such seclusion makes you an easy target, exposing your location to adversaries who could lay siege and transform your stronghold into a prison. Relying on a dwindling pool of information from a shrinking circle of confidants, you become cut off from external aid and intelligence about developments beyond your confines. History attests that isolation often culminates in defeat. As a personal strategy, isolation fares no better than it does in military tactics. Sustaining power demands social engagement. You must be at the heart of all proceedings, attuned to the dynamics of those around you. When confronted with threats, resist the impulse to seclude yourself. Instead, cultivate openness, reconnecting with old allies and forging new alliances. This approach enables you to stay abreast of unfolding events and respond proactively. Extending your reach across various social circles makes it harder for secrets to elude you and guards against obsession. French statesman Talleyrand exemplified this principle, maintaining a network of diverse connections, even engaging with unsavory characters to gather intelligence. By anticipating shifts and cultivating relationships, he navigated through numerous crises unscathed. Likewise, monarchs recognized the perils of detachment from the masses, as it often bred rebellion. By remaining engaged, you deter subterfuge and confound adversaries far more effectively than if you were ensconced behind walls. Louis XIV, cognizant of his predecessor's struggles with civil unrest, orchestrated court life to revolve around him. From the layout of Versailles to daily routines involving scores of attendees, he ensured that he was the focal point of activity. This constant presence allowed him to monitor all facets of court life closely, maintaining peace for half a century. Exceptions to this principle exist. Temporary isolation may offer the space needed for reflection and perspective, free from distractions. For example, Machiavelli penned The Prince during exile, showcasing the productivity that solitude can afford. However, prolonged isolation risks entrapment. Law 19. Know your victim. The law of power. There are many different kinds of people, and each will react differently to attempts to deceive them. You need to know who you're dealing with and avoid the types who will waste your time or exact revenge. In your pursuit of power, one crucial skill is recognizing the diverse array of individuals you encounter and adjusting your approach accordingly. Here are the 5 most perilous types to engage with, as dealing with them can prove futile or even detrimental. 1. Oversensitive and egotistical * reacts excessively, often aggressively, to perceived slights. 2. Insecure and fragile * holds on to grievances and strikes with subtle, accumulating attacks. 3. Pathologically suspicious * suspects everyone, akin to Stalin's paranoia, making manipulation possible but risky. 4. Cold and calculating * suppresses anger, strategizing revenge meticulously. 5. Slow-witted or literal * lacks intelligence and imagination, making deception fruitless. To wield power effectively, it's imperative to assess individuals accurately. Failure to comprehend your targets can lead to wasted time or even backlash, such as inadvertently insulting them or triggering their insecurities. Before engaging with someone, conduct thorough research. Relying solely on instincts or appearances is unreliable, as individuals can mask their true nature adeptly. Consider these historical examples. Oversensitive and egotistical *, a powerful Shah underestimated Genghis Khan, dismissing his offers of alliance with insults, resulting in his downfall. Insecure and fragile *, a Texas rancher refused to be duped quietly by a con artist, retaliating fiercely and dismantling the entire operation. Literal * Henry Ford's straightforwardness thwarted art dealers attempting to sell him paintings, as he failed to see the value beyond a book depicting them. Exceptions to this principle are scarce. Understanding individuals before engaging with them is paramount. Law 20. Don't take sides. The law of power. Don't commit to any side or cause except yourself. By maintaining your independence, you remain in control. Others will vie for your attention, and you can play one side against another. Part 1. Be courted by everyone. Sublaw. Maintain aloofness and avoid commitment to garner power and attention, enticing others to vie for your favor. Offer hope, but withhold definitive promises. Principles. Refusing to commit garners respect and power, rendering you desirable and unattainable to both sides. Independence breeds allure. The more autonomous you appear, the more sought after you become. Desire is infectious. Observing others' desire for you incites further interest. Accept gifts and favors without obligation. Maintain focus on self-interest and avoid offense or aversion to commitment. Engage in strategic gamesmanship for personal gain, leveraging others' efforts to your advantage. For instance, during the 1968 presidential election, Henry Kissinger strategically secured commitments from both Richard Nixon and Hubert Humphrey while sharing information between the campaigns. By refraining from overt loyalty to Nixon and navigating the subsequent administration change, Kissinger upheld his influence and furthered his goals. By exercising restraint, you preserve the ability to leverage competing interests to achieve your objectives. Kissinger, as Secretary of State, orchestrated a U.S.-Soviet détente by courting China, thereby compelling Soviet engagement to avoid isolation. Putting the law to work. Queen Elizabeth I exemplified the power of non-commitment by refusing marriage proposals to safeguard her autonomy and reign over a peaceful England, unencumbered by foreign entanglements. Part 2. Stay above the fray. Sublaw. Resist entanglement in petty disputes. Maintain a neutral stance to conserve energy and autonomy. Let others exhaust themselves in conflict while you observe, positioning yourself for advantage. Principles. Refrain from involvement in others' conflicts to avoid diversion of resources and attention. Express interest and superficial support to avoid offense, while preserving autonomy and decision-making capacity. Utilize neutrality to assess and capitalize on opportunities arising from exhausted parties or shifting dynamics. Employ strategic ambiguity to extract concessions or maintain flexibility in negotiations. Embrace public declaration of independence when seeking respect and asserting autonomy. George Washington exemplified this principle by maintaining U.S. autonomy from France in the late 18th century, positioning the nation as an equal power in international relations. Putting the law to work. Isabella of Mantua skillfully preserved her territory's independence amid warring city-states in 15th century Italy by feigning openness to alliances without commitment, employing charm, flattery, and strategic diplomacy. Exceptions to the law. Overly conspicuous manipulation risks alienating allies and losing credibility. Prolonged indecision may diminish interest from potential supporters, necessitating strategic commitment while retaining flexibility. Law 21. Make others feel smarter. The law of power. Make your intended victims feel as though they're smarter than you are, and they won't suspect you of having ulterior motives. Because no one enjoys feeling intellectually inferior, it's crucial to avoid inadvertently insulting someone's intelligence. Moreover, you can leverage this human vanity to advance your own agendas. By presenting yourself as less intelligent than others, appearing naive or slow-witted in comparison, individuals are more likely to lower their guard and overlook any ulterior motives you may have. The Prussian minister Bismarck expertly employed this strategy to his advantage during negotiations with Count Blome of Austria. Prior to the discussions, Bismarck engaged Blome in a game of quins, deliberately playing recklessly and making apparent blunders. Blome, perceiving Bismarck as unsophisticated and harmless, signed a treaty beneficial to Prussia without scrutinizing the details, much to Bismarck's delight. Adopting an unassuming and naive demeanor can also facilitate upward mobility, particularly when starting from a subordinate position. By appearing non-threatening and subservient, individuals may be more inclined to promote or overlook your actions, allowing you to pursue your objectives discreetly. Furthermore, aside from downplaying intelligence, similar tactics can be applied to other qualities to lull individuals into complacency. By making them feel superior or more refined, they will appreciate your presence and afford you the freedom to execute your schemes. Putting the law to work. In the late 1800s, two San Francisco con artists successfully swindled wealthy New York businessmen into purchasing a fake diamond mine. By portraying themselves as naive individuals stumbling upon a fortune, the businessmen felt intellectually superior and failed to suspect the sophisticated scam. The con artists capitalized on this perception, escaping with the money while the reputations of the businessmen suffered irreparable damage. Exceptions to the law. During the early stages of your career or ascent to power, it's essential to assert your intelligence to outshine competitors. However, moderation is key to avoid posing a threat. Additionally, in certain situations, emphasizing intelligence and authority can divert attention from deception. For example, art dealer Joseph Devine dissuaded a potential buyer from questioning the authenticity of a painting by intimidating them with his expertise. Law 22. Surrender to win. The law of power. Surrendering can be a tool of power. When you're weaker, surrender rather than fighting for the sake of honor. This gives you time to build strength and undermine your victor, while you wait for his power to weaken. You'll win in the end. Though it may seem counterintuitive, surrendering to your adversaries can often be the wisest strategy, placing you in a position of control. Typically, people react to aggression with heightened aggression, escalating tensions and exacerbating conflicts. While the instinct may be to retaliate forcefully, particularly when facing a stronger opponent, this often leads to devastation for the weaker party. A more strategic approach involves surrendering, essentially turning the other cheek. This unexpected response halts the opponent's aggression and creates confusion, granting you the advantage. While appearing compliant on the surface, inwardly you maintain resilience. This tactic demands self-discipline to convincingly feign defeat, allowing you the opportunity to regroup, identify weaknesses in your opponent, and plan your next move. Rather than fleeing when overpowered, maintaining proximity enables you to strike when the time is right. Ancient Chinese King Gojin exemplified this principle when, after losing a battle, he submitted to his victor, observed, and bided his time until he could emerge victorious. Power dynamics are inconstant. Those at the peak today will inevitably decline. Surrender positions you advantageously to capitalize on the eventual downfall. Putting the law to work. German writer Bertolt Brecht, a communist, employed surrender effectively during the Hollywood witch hunts of the 1950s. Despite being targeted, Brecht adopted a polite and deferential demeanor, offering ambiguous responses that confounded the committee. By feigning respect and surrender, Brecht subtly undermined the authority of the committee while safeguarding his ability to continue his work. Exceptions to the law. While surrender may be a prudent course in many situations, some argue for martyrdom in certain causes. However, such sacrifices may not yield tangible benefits, and surviving to seize opportunities when the tide turns often proves more advantageous. Law 23. Focus your efforts. The law of power. Conserve your resources and energies by focusing them where you'll get the most benefit. Concentrate on mining the richest mine rather than a whole string of mines. People often find themselves pulled in various directions, hindering their energy and effectiveness in achieving their goals. The key lies in prioritizing objectives and focusing on the most crucial ones. This principle applies to wielding power as well. Devote singular attention to your primary goal, ensuring that your efforts and resources remain undiluted. For instance, when Casanova found himself imprisoned, he relentlessly concentrated on escaping. Despite being transferred to a new cell after months of clandestine digging, he persisted until he finally achieved freedom. Whether holding a position of power or striving for it, garnering support from individuals more influential than you is essential. By concentrating efforts on wooing the most promising prospect instead of dispersing energy across numerous potential allies, success becomes more attainable while conserving resources. Scientist Nikola Tesla's attempt to maintain independence led to exhaustion as he sought support from multiple sources. Conversely, artists like Michelangelo thrived under the patronage of singular benefactors, such as Pope Julius II, while Galileo found success with the Medicis. In organizational settings where influence is sought, identifying key decision-makers and focusing efforts on influencing them is paramount. Putting the law to work. Throughout history, kingdoms and empires that expanded too broadly often faced vulnerability and collapse, as seen in the downfall of Rome and Athens. In contrast, the Rothschild banking dynasty, originating in the Jewish ghetto of Frankfurt, Germany, thrived through a strategy of concentration and cohesion. By excluding outsiders and maintaining familial control, they fortified their operations, embodying founder Mayer Rothschild's advice to avoid diffusion, dissension, and division. This unity allowed them to safeguard and expand their wealth while other powerful families faltered. Exceptions to the law. However, concentration of effort has downsides. In situations where you are weaker than your opponent, dispersing forces may be preferable, as in guerrilla warfare, where concentration makes you a clearer target. Similarly, overly relying on an alliance with one individual can leave you vulnerable when that person loses power or passes away. Thus, during turbulent times, it's prudent to cultivate multiple allies. Law 24. Play by the rules. The law of power. Courtiers of old were often masters of manipulation, expert at working their schemes within specific rules of behavior required in court. Learn from the courtier's failures and successes, and you can rise in any system. To excel in any arena where power is at stake, mastering the rules and manipulating them to your advantage is paramount. Even in contemporary times, adept courtiers or operatives who can navigate and flourish in power dynamics wield significant influence themselves. Much wisdom can be gleaned from studying historical courtiers on how to achieve this. The laws governing court politics in the era of kings remain relevant today. Here are a few. 1. Avoid bragging *. Boasting about achievements breeds resentment and invites betrayal. 2. Project ease and capability *. Make hard work seem effortless to garner admiration for your competence. 3. Use flattery sparingly *. Excessive praise of superiors arouses suspicion. Employ subtle flattery to make them shine. 4. Be noticed tactfully *. Strive for visibility without overt self-promotion. An individualistic yet restrained style is key. 5. Adapt your approach *. Tailor your demeanor and speech to suit the occasion to maximize effectiveness. 6. Avoid bearing bad news *. Shield yourself from backlash by delegating the delivery of unpleasant news. 7. Maintain professional boundaries *. Maintain a formal relationship with your superior, avoiding excessive familiarity. 8. Offer criticism indirectly * when necessary. Share negative feedback discreetly and gently to mitigate repercussions. 9. Minimize favor requests *. Rarely seek favors to prevent provoking guilt and irritation in your superiors. 10. Steer clear of appearance jokes *. Refrain from mocking superiors' appearance or taste to evade repercussions. 11. Limit criticism *. Constant criticism invites reciprocal criticism. Acknowledging others' accomplishments draws positive attention. 12. Practice self-awareness *. Understand how others perceive you to avoid offensive behavior. 13. Manage emotions *. Conceal genuine feelings and display appropriate emotions as required. 14. Stay current *. Balance modernity with tradition to remain relevant without overstepping boundaries. 15. Radiate positivity *. Cultivate a pleasant demeanor to foster positive interactions and mitigate negative traits. Putting the law to work. Successes. During the Han Dynasty, Chinese scholars employed indirect warnings to the emperor through court chronicles, avoiding direct criticism. Architect Manset displayed humility and deference towards Louis XIV, enhancing the king's image and securing major commissions. Failures. Greek philosopher Callisthenes' blunt honesty with Alexander the Great led to his demise, highlighting the peril of disregarding subtlety. Beau Brummell's jesting about the Prince of Wales' weight resulted in his expulsion from court and subsequent downfall. Exceptions to the law. Caution is advised to avoid detection in schemes, as demonstrated by Napoleon's minister Talleyrand's loss of trust after a failed deception. Law 25. Reinvent yourself. The law of power. Reinvent yourself with a powerful new image that stands out and draws attention, rather than letting others define you. Then change your appearance and emotions to suit the occasion, or stage riveting dramas as backdrops for your actions. Everyone enters this world with a predetermined character, molded by upbringing, social circles, and life events. However, this passive shaping must be transcended. To wield power effectively, you must seize control and mold and remold yourself according to the demands of your circumstances. The images you cultivate enable you to attain and exercise power. The initial step is cultivating self-awareness, viewing oneself as an actor adept at assuming requisite appearances and emotions for any given scenario. Subsequently, craft a distinct character or persona that captures attention. Abraham Lincoln, for instance, captivated audiences by embodying the persona of a rustic country lawyer, down to his attire and facial hair. He innovatively utilized photography to disseminate his image widely, a practice unprecedented among presidents. In addition to a memorable appearance, construct a narrative or drama in which to operate, replete with suspense, plot twists, and a climactic crescendo. FDR, through a calculated series of actions culminating in bold legislative moves, orchestrated his presidency with theatrical flair, ensuring maximum impact. Beyond self-promotion, drama can serve as a tool for confusion or deception, as evidenced by Bertolt Brecht's obfuscation of the House Un-American Activities Committee. Julius Caesar masterfully employed dramatic gestures, such as his fateful crossing of the Rubicon, to solidify his heroic image and command attention. Strategic entrances and exits can also be leveraged for theatrical effect, albeit with caution against overzealousness. Putting the law to work. Julius Caesar's astute understanding of the power of spectacle enabled him to stage grand announcements and theatrical events that elevated his status and authority. His calculated displays of power, from extravagant robes to divine-like appearances on the battlefield, reinforced his image as an indomitable leader. Similarly, in 19th-century Paris, Aurore Dupin-Dudevant reinvented herself as George Sand, a male author, to defy societal norms and gain recognition in literary circles. She adeptly oscillated between personas, maintaining public intrigue while asserting her independence and controlling her narrative. Exceptions to the law. There are no exceptions to this law. However, finesse is crucial. Skillfully craft and embody your roles, as poor theatrics risk alienating your audience. Law 26. Don't dirty your hands. The law of power. You'll inevitably make mistakes or need to take care of messy problems. But it's imperative to keep your hands clean. Find scapegoats to blame and use cat's paws or fixers to handle problems while disguising your involvement. Sublaw. Guard your reputation with secrecy. Principles. Your reputation hinges more on what you conceal than what you reveal. Mistakes are inevitable, but true cunning lies in concealing them and deflecting blame onto others. Always keep a convenient scapegoat at hand for such occasions. Mistakes themselves don't damage powerful individuals. It's how they handle them that matters. Excuses and apologies only worsen the situation, casting doubt on your competence and motives. Shifting blame swiftly is essential. You must maintain a scapegoat to shoulder responsibility when needed. This practice, rooted in history, exploits humanity's tendency to blame others rather than introspect. Modern leaders continue this tradition. When Mao's Cultural Revolution faltered, he blamed his personal secretary and a high-ranking party member. FDR used his secretary Louis Howe as a scapegoat for underhanded tactics. Additional considerations. Scapegoats serve as lessons and distractions, deterring others from crossing you and diverting attention from your faults. Innocent parties are effective scapegoats since their protests can be interpreted as guilt. Avoid creating martyrs. Ensure the focus remains on your victimization. Select a close associate for added impact, fostering betrayal narratives. Cat's paw sublaw. Employ a proxy. Principles. A cat's paw serves two purposes: shielding your image from undesirable tasks and conserving energy. Joseph Weil, the Yellow Kid, adeptly used cat's paws to execute schemes while maintaining a clean facade. These proxies facilitated access to his real targets. Cat's paws can disseminate false information or act as intermediaries, sparing you direct involvement. Offering yourself as a cat's paw to superiors can curry favor and enhance your standing. However, avoid seeking recognition for your actions. In one example, a therapist manipulated spouses indirectly by provoking conversations that incited them to seek joint counseling. Putting the law to work. Cleopatra utilized Julius Caesar and Mark Antony to eliminate her rivals and secure her throne, leveraging their resources and influence unwittingly. Similarly, a Japanese man, Daizen, indirectly helped a friend settle a debt by orchestrating a gift exchange with another acquaintance, easing the burden without causing obligation. Exceptions to the law. Occasionally, acknowledging mistakes can garner sympathy, or revealing your involvement can intimidate subordinates. However, exercise caution. A cat's paw usually offers a safer alternative. Law 27. Create a cult following. The law of power. People desperately want to believe in something. Offer them a cause to follow. Promise the world but keep it vague. Whip up enthusiasm. Mimic a religious structure with a hierarchy, rituals, and requests for sacrifice, donations. You'll have untold power over your followers, who will worship you. Establishing a cult following can be a potent strategy for accruing and wielding power, offering a multitude of advantages. 1. Opportunities for deception. Cults provide fertile ground for deception and manipulation. 2. Wealth accumulation. Cult leaders often amass significant wealth through their followers. 3. Defense against enemies. Followers fiercely defend their leader against adversaries. 4. Expansion and recruitment. Cults tend to grow as followers recruit others, amplifying the leader's power and wealth. 5. Immunity from criticism. Within the cult, the leader is seen as infallible, allowing them to evade scrutiny and consequences for their actions. Establishing such a following is surprisingly straightforward due to people's innate desire for belonging and belief in something greater. Historical examples abound, showcasing movements that, though now viewed skeptically, captivated masses in their time. To create a cult, adopt a systematic approach based on 5 key steps. 1. Craft a vague message. Offer nebulous promises of transformation, capitalizing on listeners' desires. Use passionate language that evokes nostalgia but lacks specificity. 2. Stage spectacles. Overwhelm followers with sensory experiences to maintain their interest and deter skepticism. 3. Emulate organized religion. Establish a hierarchical structure, rituals, and titles reminiscent of religious institutions. Solicit donations to bolster your wealth and authority, positioning yourself as a prophetic figure. 4. Obscure income sources. Project a lavish lifestyle to inspire admiration, all while concealing the true source of your wealth. 5. Manufacture enemies. Foster an us against them mentality to unite followers, leveraging real or fabricated adversaries. Historically, figures like Franz Mesmer leveraged these tactics to cultivate mass followings. Mesmer's purported ability to heal using magnetic forces drew crowds to his demonstrations, culminating in the establishment of a mesmerism cult. While initially successful, Mesmer's practices were later debunked, highlighting the risks inherent in such endeavors. However, maintaining a cult requires constant vigilance, as disillusionment among followers can lead to swift backlash. Charlatans throughout history navigated this peril by remaining attuned to their followers' sentiments and readiness to relocate when necessary. Law 28. Act boldly. The law of power. If you hesitate before doing something, your doubts will undermine your efforts. When you act, do so boldly, and if you make mistakes, correct them with even greater boldness. Everyone admires the bold. People often hesitate before taking action, but to wield power effectively, one must embrace audacity and boldness. Here's how these contrasting tendencies function. 1. Bold lies. Acting boldly can mask weaknesses and inconsistencies in one's story, making it more believable. Con artists know that audacity distracts from any flaws in their deception, making it more likely to succeed. 2. Avoid hesitation. Hesitation signals weakness and invites exploitation. Demonstrating hesitancy or a willingness to compromise can make one appear vulnerable, inviting others to take advantage. 3. Intimidate with boldness. Bold actions project power and intimidation. Sudden, decisive moves put others on the defensive, deterring future challenges. 4. Overcome obstacles. Hesitation creates obstacles, akin to a hunted rabbit's erratic behavior. Pursuing goals half-heartedly leads to self-sabotage and missed opportunities. 5. Inspire confidence. Boldness eliminates doubt and inspires confidence in others. Bold actions sweep others along, leaving no room for second-guessing. 6. Standout. Boldness attracts attention and, consequently, power. Timidity, driven by a desire for acceptance and conflict avoidance, stifles bold action. Boldness must be cultivated and practiced. Napoleon, initially timid, learned to be bold on the battlefield, eventually applying it to all aspects of his life. To develop boldness, practice it in various contexts. When negotiating, avoid the mistake of undervaluing yourself. Columbus, seeking funding, boldly demanded the title Grand Admiral of the Ocean, along with his request, earning both. Pietro Aretino, a kitchen servant turned writer, used audacity to rise to prominence. When Pope Leo X mourned the death of his elephant, Aretino seized the opportunity, penning a satirical pamphlet mocking the Pope and cardinals. His boldness earned him recognition and employment. However, boldness should be employed strategically, not recklessly. Overuse can alienate others and lead to downfall, as seen with Lola Montez, whose brazen behavior incited public outrage and resulted in her deportation. In some cases, feigning timidity can be advantageous, allowing one to lull others into complacency before striking. Yet, this strategy is short-lived, as one's reputation will precede them. Law 29. Plan the ending. The law of power. Make detailed plans with a clear ending. Think far ahead, take into account all possible developments, and don't be swayed by wishful thinking. Then pursue your plans and don't be tempted from your path. Many people believe they're planning for the future, but in reality, they're indulging in wishful thinking, envisioning the future they desire rather than one grounded in reality. However, reality often delivers unhappy endings more frequently than happy ones. Take, for example, the Athenians' ill-fated attack on Sicily. Driven by dreams of riches and glory, they failed to anticipate the disastrous consequences. The Sicilians, fighting on home turf, united against them, and wars erupted on multiple fronts, leading to the downfall of Athenian civilization. To avoid such pitfalls, it's crucial to develop detailed plans before taking action. Consider potential unintended consequences and anticipate circumstances that may tempt you to deviate from your goals. Maintaining a firm focus on the desired outcome is essential, as power often stems as much from avoiding mistakes as from making strategic moves. A prime example of strategic planning is Otto von Bismarck's quest to unify Germany under Prussian rule in the mid-1800s. With a clear endpoint in mind, he meticulously orchestrated a series of steps to achieve his goal, resisting temptations to expand territory or pursue personal glory. Once unity was achieved, he refrained from further aggression, prioritizing stability over territorial gains. While the future is inherently uncertain, effective planning allows for adaptability without resorting to mere improvisation. Ultimately, a clear vision and far-sighted strategy are indispensable for navigating the complexities of the future. Law 30. Make it seem easy. The law of power. Make difficult feats seem effortless and you'll inspire awe in others and seem powerful. Conceal the work behind your accomplishments. If you brag about it, you'll ruin the effect. Natural phenomena like volcanoes and tornadoes effortlessly display immense power, leaving people in awe. Similarly, if you can convey a sense of effortlessness in your actions, making the challenging appear easy, you can inspire awe and project power. People admire those who accomplish seemingly impossible tasks with grace and ease. The most skilled courtiers and Renaissance artists understood the art of making the difficult seem effortless. They kept their efforts hidden, revealing only the final result to maintain the mystique and impact of their work. Conversely, those who appear to try too hard often evoke discomfort, while those who effortlessly execute tasks create a captivating illusion. In the realm of power, public performances should be captivating, entertaining, and imbued with a sense of anticipation. However, revealing the effort behind the scenes diminishes the awe-inspiring effect. French Minister Talleyrand, for example, projected an aura of power by appearing relaxed and casual, even as he meticulously planned his actions. Many individuals boast about their hard work or cleverness, seeking admiration or sympathy. However, this often backfires, generating contempt rather than admiration. Remember, the more mysterious your actions, the more powerful you appear. Effortlessness suggests untapped ability and strength. When it comes to showcasing your efforts, revealing too much can spoil the effect. Harry Houdini, the famous escape artist, meticulously researched and practiced his acts, but always maintained an air of effortlessness during his performances. In some cases, Revealing the inner workings of your actions can engage your audience and foster a sense of involvement. However, such revelations should be carefully planned to avoid undermining your mystique. Exceptions to this rule exist, particularly in cases where revealing secrets can entertain or intrigue your audience. P.T. Barnum, for instance, found that divulging some of his tricks amused audiences and made them more skeptical of competitors who kept their methods secret. However, such disclosures should be strategic rather than impulsive, ensuring they enhance rather than detract from your aura of power and mystery. Law 31. Set up a phony choice. The law of power, to deceive people, seem to give them a meaningful choice, but sharply limit their options to a few that work in your favor regardless of which they choose. Your victims will feel in control, but you'll pull the strings. We often cherish having options, yet fail to realize that our choices can be severely limited in elections, our careers, or the marketplace. Despite its unfairness, we accept this reality because the alternative, boundless freedom of choice, is too daunting to consider. A restricted range of options is more manageable and causes less anxiety. The fact that most people are unperturbed by limited choices presents ample opportunities for deception. Individuals are less likely to feel deceived if they perceive themselves as having even a small degree of choice. Here are several strategies for framing either slash or choices to your advantage. Manipulate the options. Henry Kissinger frequently employed this tactic with President Nixon. By presenting 3 or 4 options in a way that always favored his preferred choice, he made it appear superior to the alternatives. This approach works particularly well with an insecure decision-maker like Nixon. Champion the opposite. Advocate for the option you don't want, knowing that contrarians will choose the opposite, which aligns with your actual preference. This technique can also be effective with children. Alter the dynamics. In situations where resistance is high, you can change the rules of the game to compel action. John D. Rockefeller, in his quest to establish an oil monopoly, achieved this by acquiring railroad companies. By controlling the transportation infrastructure, he left oil companies with the choice of selling to him or facing ruinous shipping rates. Narrow the choices. If someone is indecisive, offer progressively worse options each time they delay a decision. They will realize that delaying further only diminishes their prospects, prompting them to act. This method is particularly useful for dealing with hesitant individuals. Highlight the risks. By emphasizing the dangers associated with alternative options, you can steer fearful individuals toward the outcome you desire. While similar to spinning choices, this tactic requires a more aggressive approach to instill fear and prevent procrastination. Present 2 unfavorable alternatives. When dealing with adversaries, force them to choose between 2 unfavorable outcomes, both of which benefit you. General William Sherman employed this strategy during the Civil War by dividing his army into 2 wings, presenting Confederate troops with unfavorable options regardless of their decision. Applying the law. In the 1500s, Ivan the Terrible faced the challenge of quelling both internal dissent from the boyars and external invasion threats. Lacking sufficient power as Tsar within Russia's existing structure, he orchestrated a strategy to garner absolute authority voluntarily. By allowing the boyars to run rampant and then presenting the populace with a stark choice, grant him unchecked power or find a new leader, Ivan secured the support of the people for a strong Tsar. This voluntary transfer of power minimized resentment and civil strife that might have arisen from a forced seizure of authority. Exceptions to the law. When dealing with adversaries, it may be advantageous to allow them a degree of freedom temporarily to observe their strategies before limiting their options. Law 32. Fulfill others' fantasies. The law of power. Conjure up attractive fantasies in contrast to the gloomy realities of daily life, and people will flock to hear them. Truth is less pleasant, and fantasies are preferable. Spin the right tale at the right moment and wealth and power will follow. When life becomes mundane, dreary, or oppressive, fantasy holds a strong allure. Introducing a captivating fantasy during moments of low spirits can attract both wealth and power. Here are several types of fantasies that entice and deceive the masses by offering an escape from a bleak reality. 1. Transformative change. Rather than emphasizing the slow and arduous nature of change, promise swift and effortless transformations from poverty to wealth, sadness to happiness, or sickness to health. 2. Adventure. Break free from the constraints of everyday life by presenting exhilarating new worlds where conventional rules cease to apply. 3. Peace and harmony. Despite the divisions inherent in human society, offer the illusion of mystical connection and unity. 4. Resurrection. Rekindle elements of the past thought to be lost forever, whether through the discovery of forgotten treasures or lost masterpieces. In the late 1500s, during a period of hardship for Venice, a man named Bragadino arrived with promises of miraculous wealth multiplication through a secret substance. Desperate for relief, Venetians embraced his fantasy, hoping to restore their city's former glory overnight. However, disillusionment soon followed, leading Bragadino to flee and meet his demise in Bavaria. Bragadino's fantasy wielded immense power by offering instantaneous transformation at a time when Venice sought respite from its woes. Instead of the daunting task of rebuilding through hard work, he tantalized with the prospect of effortless riches. For a brief period, his fantasy resonated, granting him fleeting wealth and fame. Exceptions to the law. Spinning elaborate fantasies carries risks if the deception is uncovered. To avoid such pitfalls, maintain ambiguity in your stories and commitments, steering clear of concrete promises that could lead to exposure. Law 33. Use others' weaknesses. The law of power. Everyone has a weakness, a hole in his armor. It's usually an insecurity, an uncontrollable emotion or need, or a secret pleasure. Once found, it's leverage that you can use to your advantage. Everyone possesses a vulnerability, a hidden button that, when pushed, can be exploited to your advantage. Those who conceal their weaknesses are particularly susceptible to manipulation. By identifying and triggering these vulnerabilities, you can easily deceive or persuade them to act in your favor. Here are some guiding principles to uncover and exploit someone's weaknesses. 1. Observe and listen. Secrets are rarely kept entirely hidden. Even in silence, people communicate through body language and subtle cues. Engage in conversation and listen attentively. A sympathetic ear often encourages others to divulge their vulnerabilities. 2. Pay attention to details. Notice what makes a person laugh, how they interact with others, and what their attire reveals about their personality. Focus on their unconscious behavior, which often reveals hidden weaknesses. 3. Appeal to desires. Identify what they desire most and cater to their needs or preferences. Fulfilling their desires can make them more susceptible to manipulation. 4. Tap into childhood needs. Childhood experiences shape adult vulnerabilities. Identify unmet emotional needs from their past and offer substitutes to exploit their weaknesses. 5. Look for contradictions. People often hide weaknesses by displaying traits opposite to their true nature. Recognize these contradictions to uncover their vulnerabilities. 6. Identify the linchpin. In groups or organizations, certain individuals hold significant influence over others. Targeting these individuals can allow you to exert control over the entire group. 7. Address emotional voids. Exploit emotional vulnerabilities, such as insecurity or discontent, to gain control over them. Addressing their unmet emotional needs makes them more manipulable. 8. Leverage strong emotions. Manipulate people by exploiting their strongest emotions, such as paranoia, greed, fear, or hatred. Uncontrollable passions, like an obsession with the opposite sex, can also be exploited. In practice, art dealer Joseph Devine exploited the insecurity of wealthy heiress Arabella Huntington by flattering her and cultivating her taste in art, eventually selling her a record-breaking painting. Con artist Victor Lustig swindled a wealthy businessman by offering him friendship, validation, and social connections that he desperately craved. French regent Catherine de' Medici controlled ambitious men by playing to their insatiable desires for women, using skilled mistresses to seduce them and gather information. Prussian minister Bismarck manipulated King William by appealing to his insecurities about his manhood and desire for courage, convincing him to build up the army and engage in wars. Exceptions to the rule. Be cautious not to overstep boundaries when exploiting vulnerabilities. Strong emotions can lead to unexpected consequences, so always anticipate potential outcomes and be prepared to address them. Law 34. Act like royalty. The law of power. Act like royalty and people will treat you that way. Project dignity and supreme confidence that you're destined for great things. If you demand a high price, people will think you're worth it. You'll accrue power and respect. Behave like royalty, and people will treat you accordingly, bestowing upon you status, respect, and power. The crown symbolizes authority and privilege, exuding an aura of power that surrounds a king. You can cultivate a similar aura for yourself by projecting an air of destined greatness. Your unwavering confidence and self-assurance will emit a commanding presence akin to that of a crowned monarch. This self-assurance is infectious. Others will perceive it, and you'll find yourself able to confidently request and receive what you desire. Your unwavering belief in your capabilities will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Just as children effortlessly charm adults with their confident requests, adults too enjoy indulging those who exude self-assurance. It's crucial to comport yourself differently. People hold certain expectations for royal behavior, and meeting them is essential to being treated as royalty. One of the key elements is to set yourself apart from those around you. One effective method is to consistently exhibit dignity and regal bearing, though this should not be mistaken for arrogance, which often betrays insecurity. Haile Selassie, an Ethiopian ruler from a noble lineage, wasn't initially expected to ascend to the throne. However, his poise, composure, and unwavering confidence as a young man exuded a royal presence that caught the attention of the reigning king, propelling him to prominence. In addition to cultivating inner confidence and strength, there are several outward strategies you can employ to enhance your royal aura. Make bold demands. Like Christopher Columbus, who confidently sought funding and prestigious titles from Queen Isabella of Spain for his explorations, demand what you believe you deserve. Even if your demands are not met, standing firm signals your worth and commands respect. Engage with high-ranking individuals. By taking on formidable adversaries, you position yourself as their equal in the eyes of others. Offer gifts to your superiors or patrons. By presenting gifts, you establish a sense of equality with those above you. This gesture also allows you to obtain what you desire without appearing submissive, which would diminish your stature. Christopher Columbus, despite being the son of a cheese vendor, projected an air of entitlement and nobility that convinced others he was of royal lineage. When seeking support for his expeditions, he approached monarchs with the confidence and charm of a born aristocrat. He seemed destined for greatness. Furthermore, he made audacious requests, such as demanding the title of Grand Admiral of the Oceanic Sea and a portion of the proceeds from discovered lands, which ultimately enhanced his perceived status. Emulate Columbus. Boldly aim for the stars, and others will perceive you as worthy of such lofty aspirations. Exceptions to the rule. While it's essential to distinguish yourself from others, avoid doing so at the expense of humiliating them, as this may provoke a backlash. Additionally, be wary of soaring too high, as it may attract unwanted attention. Radiate confidence, but temper it with humility to avoid appearing arrogant. Law 35. Get the timing right. The law of power. Anticipate the ebb and flow of power. Recognize when the time is right and align yourself with the right side. Be patient and wait for your moment when you know you'll benefit in the long run. When it's time to make your end move against an opponent, strike without hesitation. In the pursuit of power, timing stands as a paramount factor. The ability to seize opportunities amidst shifting tides is indispensable. One must remain vigilant, attuned to the signs of change, and align oneself with emerging forces. Yet, agility is key, necessitating a readiness to pivot before the pendulum swings once more. To not only survive but thrive amidst upheaval, heed these principles. Discern the winds of change. Stay vigilant, sensing the currents beneath the surface and the emerging trends at society's fringes. Instead of clinging to a fading past, seek out nascent leaders and burgeoning movements to align with. Foresee the backlash. As new forces gain momentum or powers ascend, Anticipate the inevitable reactionary tide and position yourself to ride it. Exercise patience and composure. Amidst chaos, maintain a low profile and bide your time, awaiting the opportune moment to act once more. Time can be harnessed and managed in 3 distinct ways. Embrace the long view. Adopt a perspective that spans years ahead, focusing on seizing opportunities over time. Employ a defensive strategy, playing the waiting game patiently. By resisting the temptation to act impulsively, you gain clarity and foresight, allowing you to navigate the future with precision. Force your opponent's hand. Utilize a short-term offensive approach to disrupt your opponent's timing. Whether by delaying negotiations or imposing unrealistic deadlines, exert pressure to induce mistakes. Sales tactics often employ this strategy, creating a sense of urgency to spur decision-making. Execute with precision. At a critical juncture, execute your plans decisively and swiftly. While patience holds its merit, when the time for action arrives, hesitation is not an option. Joseph Fouché, a prominent figure in France during turbulent times, exemplified this principle. His adeptness at gauging the shifting political landscape allowed him to align with new leaders and evade retribution. Exceptions to the rule. Disregarding the significance of timing and relinquishing control to external forces serves no purpose. Mastery over time is essential for those aspiring to wield power effectively. Law 36. Ignore small problems. The law of power. Sometimes it's better to ignore things. You'll make small problems worse, make yourself look bad, and give your enemy attention he doesn't deserve if you respond to a minor provocation. By not showing interest, you maintain your superiority. When faced with a petty annoyance, sometimes the most powerful response is to simply ignore it. Choosing not to engage can serve as a display of strength, a subtle message that the issue at hand isn't worthy of your attention. Furthermore, refraining from reacting helps you sidestep the pitfalls of entanglement, sparing your time and energy from being consumed by someone else's trivialities. By allowing insignificant matters to fade into obscurity, you maintain your focus on more significant pursuits. Disregarding individuals who thrive on your acknowledgement proves to be an effective tactic. By withholding your attention, you neutralize their influence, asserting your superiority in the process. While this may incite their frustration, their efforts are futile since you've chosen not to engage. Conversely, lavishing attention on a minor adversary grants them undue significance and risks portraying you as petty, particularly if it leads to a protracted conflict. President Kennedy inadvertently elevated Fidel Castro's status by escalating the Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961. Attacking a minor nuisance also risks eliciting sympathy for the offender. In such cases, the best course of action is often to refrain from intervention. This principle extends to addressing mistakes or issues. Attempting to rectify them only serves to draw attention and potentially exacerbate the situation. Here's how to effectively execute a strategy of disregarding what troubles you. If you desire something but cannot attain it, avoid drawing attention by complaining. Instead, feign disinterest. In the face of an attack from an inferior party or acknowledging a mistake, act as though you haven't noticed. If confronted with an error, refrain from a defensive response, which may worsen matters. Instead, acknowledge the mistake but reframe it to your advantage. When Renaissance writer Aretino was exposed for fabricating his aristocratic lineage, he candidly acknowledged his humble origins as the son of a shoemaker, emphasizing that his achievements were all the more remarkable despite this. Putting the law to work. In the early 1900s, President Woodrow Wilson exacerbated a minor incident by deploying a large military force into Mexico in pursuit of bandit Pancho Villa. Villa adeptly evaded the American forces, growing in popularity and eventually forcing a U.S. withdrawal. Wilson's mishandling of the situation transformed a minor issue into a significant embarrassment. Alternatively, he could have employed a smaller, more strategic force, laid a trap, or allowed the Mexican authorities to handle Villa independently. Instead, Wilson's missteps proved costly. Exceptions to the rule. When employing the tactic of disdain, ensure that you do not sow resentment that could manifest in retaliation later on. Publicly disregarding someone may necessitate monitoring to prevent further complications. Law 37. Put on a show. The law of power. In addition to words, use visuals and symbols to underscore your power. What people see makes a greater impression on them than what they hear. Put on a show using stunning visuals and powerful symbols that connect with people emotionally. Create a feast for the eyes and no one will notice what you're really doing. Our reliance on visual stimuli surpasses that of any other sense. What we perceive visually leaves a deeper impression than what we hear. Images, bypassing rational thought, evoke potent emotional responses and seldom provoke the same offense or ire as misunderstood or misinterpreted words. Aligning yourself with images and symbols serves to underscore and amplify your authority. Utilize symbols to rally, animate, and unite your supporters. Opt for symbols that encapsulate your cause, with greater emotional resonance yielding superior results. Enhance the emotional impact by incorporating revered symbols from the past in novel ways. For instance, during the 1648 rebellion against the French monarchy, Loyalists derided the rebels by likening them to slingshots wielded by children. A cardinal cleverly appropriated this derision, transforming it into a symbol embraced by the rebels, which they proudly displayed and integrated into their rallying cries. Organize and integrate your images and symbols into a spectacle or performance that elicits awe and draws people away from their ordinary lives. Ensure meticulous visual arrangement, placing pivotal images at the forefront and leveraging color to enhance impact. Craft a captivating spectacle, and verbal persuasion becomes superfluous. Executing the law. Diane de Poitiers, mistress of King Henry II of France, captivated him from his youth until his demise in her 60s. Central to maintaining his fascination was her adept creation of striking visuals and symbols representing herself and their relationship. She devised a graphic emblem intertwining their initials, incorporating it extensively into the design of her estate. Henry adorned his attire and public monuments with it. Moreover, Diane associated herself with the goddess Diana, anchoring their relationship in potent mythology. Diana's imagery permeated her estate, proliferating elsewhere. Poets penned verses in her honor, and Henry bestowed upon her titles and shared his wealth. Distinguish yourself by affiliating with influential images, symbols, or historical figures. You'll project an aura of grandeur, ensnaring your audience's attention. Exceptions to the law. There exists no drawback to harnessing symbols to augment your authority. Law 38. Go along to get along. The law of power. If you make a show of being different, flaunting unconventional ideas and behavior, people will think you look down on them and will retaliate against you for making them feel inferior. It's better to blend in. Share your real views only with close friends and like-minded people. Speaking completely freely is an impossibility. From a young age, we're taught to conceal our thoughts to avoid causing offense, and to tell sensitive or insecure individuals what they wish to hear. Internally, we maintain our own beliefs and opinions, but externally, we strive to be unobjectionable. Nevertheless, some individuals rebel against these constraints, seeking to assert the superiority of their unconventional beliefs. Yet, they often offend rather than persuade, as people are reluctant to abandon their deeply held values, which carry emotional weight. Many nonconformists eventually learn to assimilate into society and reserve their differing views for like-minded individuals. Outward appearances are paramount. Blending in with the crowd leads others to assume alignment in beliefs, leaving one undisturbed. Today, various orthodoxies dictate societal norms, deviation from which is met with disapproval. For instance, when Jonas Salk discovered the polio vaccine, he breached scientific protocol by publicly announcing his findings before peer review. Consequently, he faced ostracism from the scientific community. However, astute individuals recognize the strategic value of adapting to different audiences. Employing various personas allows them to circumvent obstacles and manipulate others into compliance. When one appears to share the beliefs of others, they are often flattered, lowering their guard. Illustrating the law. During the Spanish Inquisition, writer Campanella faced imprisonment and torture for openly professing atheistic beliefs. While most conformed to Catholic doctrine or at least feigned adherence, Campanella's inability to self-censor led to his persecution. However, while incarcerated, he devised a new strategy, feigning compliance while subtly conveying his true views. Initially, he simulated madness to evade execution, resulting in a life sentence. He then penned a book espousing views diametrically opposed to his earlier convictions. Upon release, he authored another book ostensibly refuting atheism, yet subtly endorsing the very ideas he once professed. By employing Catholic arguments, he disseminated his unorthodox beliefs covertly, making them appear more compelling in comparison to the Church's standard rebuttals. Though disconcerting to Catholic readers, his approach precluded charges of heresy. Campanella learned that blending in while covertly expressing one's ideas to a select audience yields greater efficacy than martyrdom. Exceptions to the law. Standing out instead of assimilating may serve those already in positions of power, signaling their autonomy from societal norms. President Lyndon Johnson, for instance, sometimes conducted meetings from the toilet, flouting social conventions. However, excessive deviation risks alienating others. While society tolerates a few outliers, achieving objectives often necessitates assimilation. Law 39. Rattle your opponents. The law of power. Always stay calm and objective. When you get angry, you've lost control. But if you can make your enemies angry, you gain an advantage. Rattle your enemies to put them off balance. When faced with someone's irrational anger, it's crucial to recognize two key aspects. Firstly, their outburst will ultimately undermine their credibility and respect among others. Their loss of control reveals a sense of helplessness rather than strength. Secondly, their anger is rarely personal. It typically originates from past experiences and is aimed at asserting dominance or control over you, rather than harboring a genuine grudge. Understanding this allows you to effectively counter their behavior. Instead of being swept up in their emotions, it's essential to remain calm and strategize how to leverage their anger. In certain situations, you might intentionally provoke someone to expose their instability to bystanders or provoke them into acting foolishly. There are numerous methods to achieve this, such as ridiculing their masculinity or undermining their pride. By eliciting a reaction, you gain the upper hand. Illustrating the law. Napoleon's downfall commenced with his loss of temper during a meeting with his ministers, triggered by Talleyrand's subversive tactics. While Talleyrand maintained composure, Napoleon's escalating fury symbolized his regime's unraveling, leading others to perceive him as unstable. Public displays of unchecked anger or frustration may initially instill fear, but they ultimately breed disrespect and doubt regarding one's stability. Such outbursts signify powerlessness akin to a child's tantrum, foreboding a downfall. Ethiopian leader Haile Selassie adeptly exploited his opponent Guska's emotions to orchestrate his downfall. Aware of Guska's plot against him, Selassie deliberately antagonized him, prompting a march on the capital. However, Selassie had already secured defections from Guska's ranks, ensuring his defeat. Exceptions to the law. Before deliberately provoking someone, assess whether the situation can be controlled and whether it aligns with your objectives. While occasional displays of anger may serve to assert dominance, overuse diminishes their effectiveness. Attacking a minor nuisance also risks eliciting sympathy for the offender. In such cases, the best course of action is often to refrain from intervention. This principle extends to addressing mistakes or issues. Attempting to rectify them only serves to draw attention and potentially exacerbate the situation. Here's how to effectively execute a strategy of disregarding what troubles you. If you desire something but cannot attain it, avoid drawing attention by complaining. Instead, feign disinterest. In the face of an attack from an inferior party or acknowledging a mistake, act as though you haven't noticed. If confronted with an error, refrain from a defensive response, which may worsen matters. Instead, acknowledge the mistake but reframe it to your advantage. When Renaissance writer Aretino was exposed for fabricating his aristocratic lineage, he candidly acknowledged his humble origins as the son of a shoemaker, emphasizing that his achievements were all the more remarkable despite this. Putting the law to work. In the early 1900s, President Woodrow Wilson exacerbated a minor incident by deploying a large military force into Mexico in pursuit of bandit Pancho Villa. Villa adeptly evaded the American forces, growing in popularity and eventually forcing a U.S. withdrawal. Wilson's mishandling of the situation transformed a minor issue into a significant embarrassment. Alternatively, he could have employed a smaller, more strategic force, laid a trap, or allowed the Mexican authorities to handle Villa independently. Instead, Wilson's missteps proved costly. Exceptions to the rule. When employing the tactic of disdain, ensure that you do not sow resentment that could manifest in retaliation later on. Publicly disregarding someone may necessitate monitoring to prevent further complications. Law 37. Put on a show. The law of power. In addition to words, use visuals and symbols to underscore your power. What people see makes a greater impression on them than what they hear. Put on a show using stunning visuals and powerful symbols that connect with people emotionally. Create a feast for the eyes and no one will notice what you're really doing. Our reliance on visual stimuli surpasses that of any other sense. What we perceive visually leaves a deeper impression than what we hear. Images, bypassing rational thought, evoke potent emotional responses and seldom provoke the same offense or ire as misunderstood or misinterpreted words. Aligning yourself with images and symbols serves to underscore and amplify your authority. Utilize symbols to rally, animate, and unite your supporters. Opt for symbols that encapsulate your cause, with greater emotional resonance yielding superior results. Enhance the emotional impact by incorporating revered symbols from the past in novel ways. For instance, during the 1648 rebellion against the French monarchy, Loyalists derided the rebels by likening them to slingshots wielded by children. A cardinal cleverly appropriated this derision, transforming it into a symbol embraced by the rebels, which they proudly displayed and integrated into their rallying cries. Organize and integrate your images and symbols into a spectacle or performance that elicits awe and draws people away from their ordinary lives. Ensure meticulous visual arrangement, placing pivotal images at the forefront and leveraging color to enhance impact. Craft a captivating spectacle, and verbal persuasion becomes superfluous. Executing the law. Diane de Poitiers, mistress of King Henry II of France, captivated him from his youth until his demise in her 60s. Central to maintaining his fascination was her adept creation of striking visuals and symbols representing herself and their relationship. She devised a graphic emblem intertwining their initials, incorporating it extensively into the design of her estate. Henry adorned his attire and public monuments with it. Moreover, Diane associated herself with the goddess Diana, anchoring their relationship in potent mythology. Diana's imagery permeated her estate, proliferating elsewhere. Poets penned verses in her honor, and Henry bestowed upon her titles and shared his wealth. Distinguish yourself by affiliating with influential images, symbols, or historical figures. You'll project an aura of grandeur, ensnaring your audience's attention. Exceptions to the law. There exists no drawback to harnessing symbols to augment your authority. Law 38. Go along to get along. The law of power. If you make a show of being different, flaunting unconventional ideas and behavior, people will think you look down on them and will retaliate against you for making them feel inferior. It's better to blend in. Share your real views only with close friends and like-minded people. Speaking completely freely is an impossibility. From a young age, we're taught to conceal our thoughts to avoid causing offense, and to tell sensitive or insecure individuals what they wish to hear. Internally, we maintain our own beliefs and opinions, but externally, we strive to be unobjectionable. Nevertheless, some individuals rebel against these constraints, seeking to assert the superiority of their unconventional beliefs. Yet, they often offend rather than persuade, as people are reluctant to abandon their deeply held values, which carry emotional weight. Many nonconformists eventually learn to assimilate into society and reserve their differing views for like-minded individuals. Outward appearances are paramount. Blending in with the crowd leads others to assume alignment in beliefs, leaving one undisturbed. Today, various orthodoxies dictate societal norms, deviation from which is met with disapproval. For instance, when Jonas Salk discovered the polio vaccine, he breached scientific protocol by publicly announcing his findings before peer review. Consequently, he faced ostracism from the scientific community. However, astute individuals recognized the strategic value of adapting to different audiences. Employing various personas allows them to circumvent obstacles and manipulate others into compliance. When one appears to share the beliefs of others, they are often flattered, lowering their guard. Illustrating the law. During the Spanish Inquisition, writer Campanella faced imprisonment and torture for openly professing atheistic beliefs. While most conformed to Catholic doctrine or at least feigned adherence, Campanella's inability to self-censor led to his persecution. However, while incarcerated, he devised a new strategy, feigning compliance while subtly conveying his true views. Initially, he simulated madness to evade execution, resulting in a life sentence. He then penned a book espousing views diametrically opposed to his earlier convictions. Upon release, he authored another book ostensibly refuting atheism, yet subtly endorsing the very ideas he once professed. By employing Catholic arguments, he disseminated his unorthodox beliefs covertly, making them appear more compelling in comparison to the Church's standard rebuttals. Though disconcerting to Catholic readers, his approach precluded charges of heresy. Campanella learned that blending in while covertly expressing one's ideas to a select audience yields greater efficacy than martyrdom. Exceptions to the law. Standing out instead of assimilating may serve those already in positions of power, signaling their autonomy from societal norms. President Lyndon Johnson, for instance, sometimes conducted meetings from the toilet, flouting social conventions. However, excessive deviation risks alienating others. While society tolerates a few outliers, achieving objectives often necessitates assimilation. Law 39. Rattle your opponents. The law of power. Always stay calm and objective. When you get angry, you've lost control. But if you can make your enemies angry, you gain an advantage. Rattle your enemies to put them off balance. When faced with someone's irrational anger, it's crucial to recognize two key aspects. Firstly, their outburst will ultimately undermine their credibility and respect among others. Their loss of control reveals a sense of helplessness rather than strength. Secondly, their anger is rarely personal. It typically originates from past experiences and is aimed at asserting dominance or control over you, rather than harboring a genuine grudge. Understanding this allows you to effectively counter their behavior. Instead of being swept up in their emotions, it's essential to remain calm and strategize how to leverage their anger. In certain situations, you might intentionally provoke someone to expose their instability to bystanders or provoke them into acting foolishly. There are numerous methods to achieve this, such as ridiculing their masculinity or undermining their pride. By eliciting a reaction, you gain the upper hand. Illustrating the law. Napoleon's downfall commenced with his loss of temper during a meeting with his ministers, triggered by Talleyrand's subversive tactics. While Talleyrand maintained composure, Napoleon's escalating fury symbolized his regime's unraveling, leading others to perceive him as unstable. Public displays of unchecked anger or frustration may initially instill fear, but they ultimately breed disrespect and doubt regarding one's stability. Such outbursts signify powerlessness akin to a child's tantrum, foreboding a downfall. Ethiopian leader Haile Selassie adeptly exploited his opponent Guska's emotions to orchestrate his downfall. Aware of Guska's plot against him, Selassie deliberately antagonized him, prompting a march on the capital. However, Selassie had already secured defections from Guska's ranks, ensuring his defeat. Exceptions to the law. Before deliberately provoking someone, assess whether the situation can be controlled and whether it aligns with your objectives. While occasional displays of anger may serve to assert dominance, overuse diminishes their effectiveness. Law 40. Use money as a tool. The law of power. Use money and generosity strategically to achieve your goals. Remember that everything has a price, and don't accept free gifts. But use the desire for a free lunch to deceive others. Use gifts to build a reputation of generosity, which creates an aura or power, and also to obligate people to you. Money serves as a potent tool of power, offering avenues for both strategic advancement and deceptive schemes. Harnessing its potential requires astute understanding of human behavior and judicious application. Here's how to navigate its influence. 1. Utilize reciprocity. When receiving something for free, a sense of obligation ensues. While safeguarding your independence, employ this tactic judiciously with others. Offering gifts not only places recipients in your debt, but also disarms them, rendering them less vigilant to your intentions. This fosters goodwill, strengthens your reputation, and cultivates alliances, thereby bolstering your pursuit of power. 2. Identify and exploit weaknesses. Beware of individuals ensnared by detrimental money-related traits. Driven by greed, individuals fixated on wealth often overlook human dynamics, making them susceptible to deception due to their isolation and lack of empathy. Obsessed with bargains, their fixation on securing the best deals can breed paranoia and mistrust, making them vulnerable to hidden costs and inferior quality. Hardball players. Those who wield money as a tool of dominance may resort to manipulative tactics, exploiting vulnerabilities to assert control. Overly generous. Excessive generosity, driven by a craving for admiration, undermines discernment, rendering individuals susceptible to exploitation. 3. Strategic deployment of wealth. Exemplary cases highlight the strategic use of money. Spain's misguided pursuit of gold. Spain's reckless quest for riches led to financial ruin, emphasizing the perils of succumbing to greed. Prioritize power over monetary pursuits, focusing on foundational elements such as self-discipline and alliances. The Duchess of Marlborough's petty games. Petty displays of power through financial manipulation eroded respect and social standing, underscoring the futility of using money for vindictive ends. Baron James Rothschild's strategic spending. Recognizing the importance of social acceptance, Rothschild strategically invested in cultural showcases and lavish events to win favor among the elite, showcasing the efficacy of strategic spending in securing influence. In conclusion, while money presents opportunities for both empowerment and exploitation, adept manipulation demands a nuanced understanding of human psychology and strategic acumen. Balancing generosity with discernment and leveraging wealth for strategic ends ensures a path to power while avoiding pitfalls of greed and recklessness. Law 41. Chart your own course. The law of power. If you succeed a great person or famous parent, find or create your own space to fill. Sharply separate and distance yourself from the past. Create your own identity, style, and symbols and follow your own course. Beware of slipping back into the past. Succession after a great leader or famous parent presents formidable challenges, as the successor inherits a legacy difficult to surpass. External pressures often compel continuity rather than innovation, fostering hesitancy to deviate from established norms. Yet, projecting power demands transcending the shadow of one's predecessor. Here's how to navigate this predicament. 1. Create your space. Initiate a deliberate separation from the past and your predecessor. Disparage the past, highlighting contrasts between old and new eras. John F. Kennedy exemplified this by shunning Eisenhower's golfing image in favor of vigorous activities, like football, symbolizing a break from tradition. 2. Symbolic distance. Utilize symbolism to physically distance yourself from your predecessor's legacy. King Louis XIV's construction of Versailles, with its unique architecture and rituals, exemplifies this strategy, establishing a distinct identity and era. 3. Reject precedent. Burn the instruction manuals of the past, rejecting precedent to assert autonomy in decision-making. General Douglas MacArthur's dismissal of predecessors' instructions during World War II underscores the importance of forging one's path. 4. Fill vacuums boldly. Identify and occupy new spaces or challenges. Act boldly where others fear to break with tradition, earning respect and admiration for innovation. Avoid complacency and continually seek new opportunities to redefine yourself. In practice, Alexander the Great epitomized these principles by rejecting his father's cautious rule and embarking on a bold conquest of Persia and beyond. Slashing the Gordian knot symbolized his rejection of past constraints and his determination to chart his course. Exceptions exist where past practices prove beneficial, cautioning against blind rejection. Emulate past successes selectively while remaining vigilant against stagnation. In conclusion, Succession demands boldness to forge a distinct identity and fill new voids, transcending the shadow of predecessors. By embracing innovation and rejecting complacency, successors can assert their power and secure their place amidst potential rivals. Law 42. Squelch the troublemaker. The law of power. Trouble in a group often starts with a single individual who stirs the pot. You need to stop them before others succumb to their influence. Neutralize their influence by isolating or exposing them. Their followers will scatter. In any group or organization, there are invariably individuals who thrive on stirring up trouble and spreading discontent. These troublemakers may operate overtly, subtly, or both, and their actions can significantly undermine the group's effectiveness and cohesion by sowing dissension and creating factions. Their influence, if left unchecked, can spread like an infectious disease, rapidly eroding the group's unity and morale. Ancient Athens recognized the dangers posed by such individuals and often resorted to banishing them from the community. To safeguard your power and ensure the pursuit of your objectives remains unhindered, it's crucial to identify and address troublemakers at the earliest signs of unrest. When detecting signs of trouble brewing, pay attention to individuals who seem to garner attention and influence through their discontent and complaints. Troublemakers often exhibit overbearing behavior and are adept at garnering sympathy for their grievances. To counter their influence, swift isolation is key. In some cases, members of the group may be unaware of the troublemaker's disruptive influence, especially if their actions are subtle or disguised. Simply pointing out the individual's behavior can sometimes diminish their impact. However, more often than not, proactive measures are necessary to sever their ties to the group before their influence becomes pervasive. Overt troublemakers, often charismatic individuals, are difficult to reform or confront directly. Instead, focus on isolating them from their audience or power base using a variety of means, whether physical reassignment, political maneuvering, or psychological tactics to turn others against them. Strategically luring or sending the troublemaker away during a critical moment can also be effective, leveraging the power of distraction and deception to weaken their influence. Con artists have long understood the vulnerability of individuals removed from their familiar social context, making them more susceptible to manipulation. Historically, Athens employed ostracism as a means of removing antisocial individuals from society. Through an annual voting event, citizens could banish individuals for behaviors such as arrogance, scheming, or undermining leaders. While drastic, this practice was seen as a necessary measure to preserve the cohesion and stability of the community. Exceptions to these tactics exist, particularly when isolating an adversary risks provoking retaliation or fostering resentment. Andrew Johnson's isolation of Ulysses S. Grant, for instance, ultimately backfired when Grant garnered support and ascended to the presidency. In such cases, maintaining a watchful eye while undercutting support may be a more prudent approach. Law 43. Win hearts and minds. The law of power. Win others' hearts and minds, and you'll have them eating out of your hand. Play on their emotions and weaknesses, appeal to their self-interest, and they'll willingly do what you want. Build broad support, someday you'll need it. Neglect this at your peril. Forcing people to comply with your wishes may yield short-term results, but it's hardly a sustainable strategy in the long run. Such coercion often breeds resentment and resistance. A more effective and enduring approach involves winning over hearts and minds, prompting individuals to willingly align with your objectives. Central to this strategy is the adept manipulation of people's emotions and vulnerabilities. By understanding their individual psychology and emotional triggers, you can exert a profound influence. Harnessing potent emotions like hate, envy, and love, as Mao did in his speeches, can render individuals more susceptible to your sway. Surprising people with acts of kindness, especially when they anticipate retaliation, can be particularly impactful. Similarly, addressing their fears and insecurities or offering hope in times of despair can forge strong emotional bonds. Symbolic gestures demonstrating solidarity, even in minor ways, can foster goodwill and rapport. By eliciting individuals' likes and dislikes and leveraging them to your advantage, you can deepen your connection. Appealing to their self-interest, the most potent motivator, by illustrating how your objectives align with their personal gain, can further strengthen your influence. Building a broad support base, including allies across various levels, is crucial for long-term success. French Queen Marie Antoinette serves as a cautionary tale in this regard. Her failure to cultivate genuine rapport with her subjects, coupled with her extravagant lifestyle amidst economic turmoil, fueled public resentment and ultimately led to her demise. In essence, the imperative to win hearts and minds remains universal, with no exceptions to its potency and relevance. Law 44. Mirror others' emotions. The law of power used the mirroring technique to control people. When you mirror opponents' actions, doing as they do, they can't figure out your strategy. Seduce people by mirroring their emotions and interests. Create the illusion that you share their values. Few can resist when you reflect their deepest needs and desires. Passing by a mirror and catching a sudden glimpse of yourself can provoke a striking and profound reaction. Similarly, you can wield a potent influence over others by employing the psychological technique of mirroring. Neutralizing an opponent's impact can be achieved by mimicking their actions. Replicating their words or gestures can frustrate and divert them from their objectives, while also providing a cloak for your own intentions. This tactic finds efficacy in both military and political maneuvers. More commonly, mirroring is employed for psychological manipulation and deception. While many individuals seek to dominate interactions with their own opinions and experiences, mirroring involves reflecting and seemingly sharing their innermost thoughts and emotions, thereby disarming them. To effectively mirror someone, ascertain what distinguishes them and then reflect it back to them, amplifying their fantasies and desires. Observe their expressions, gestures, clothing, social circle, and habits for clues about their emotional state. By surprising them with your deep understanding of their psyche, you can engender a sense of gratitude and vulnerability, rendering them pliable in your hands. Marie Mancini, at 18, masterfully employed mirroring to become the mistress of future King Louis XIV. Despite lacking traditional beauty, she meticulously studied his preferences and aspirations. By engaging him in discussions about heroic ideals and treating him as the noble king he aspired to be, she won his affections deeply and enduringly. Exceptions to this strategy arise when one unwittingly becomes associated with a past scenario, leading others to expect behavior mirroring that of a predecessor. In such cases, swift action to break the association is crucial to avoid undue suffering. Additionally, excessive mirroring can evoke feelings of exploitation, undermining its effectiveness. Law 45. Enact changes slowly. The law of power. Everyone understands the need for change, but people are nonetheless creatures of habit. Too much change is unsettling and will spark backlash. Make a show of respecting the old way of doing things. Evoke revered history and cloak your changes in familiar rituals. People inherently grasp the concept of change, yet they often recoil from alterations that appear too drastic or disruptive, particularly when they impact them personally. As creatures of habit, we find solace in routines and predictability. Immediate resistance often accompanies significant change, and an excess of rapid change can breed anxiety that eventually erupts into strong backlash. Every revolution, regardless of its initial reception, inevitably triggers a forceful reaction. Nevertheless, there are strategies to render change more palatable and less intimidating, thereby increasing its likelihood of success. One effective approach involves employing a reassuring facade. Advocate for change and enact modifications behind the scenes, all while preserving the comforting semblance of familiar institutions and traditions. For instance, maintain customary titles, rituals, and organizational structures while instituting substantive changes. When the Romans transitioned from monarchy to republic, they preserved the veneer of familiarity by replacing the king with 2 consuls and retaining 12 advisors to mirror the former structure. They upheld the practice of annual sacrifice, albeit assigning it to a new position known as the king of the sacrifice. Additionally, assuage fears by publicly affirming your reverence for traditional values and the preservation of heritage. Be attuned to the prevailing public sentiment. If your reforms outpace societal readiness, anxiety and misapprehension will ensue. Consequently, Temper the pace of change and endeavor to portray your initiatives as less radical. Never underestimate the deeply ingrained conservatism of people. Abrupt and radical changes will provoke rebellion, with you as the scapegoat. Anticipate a delayed reaction. Initial enthusiasm may wane over time, leading to a longing for the past. Swiftly establish new values to supplant the old and assuage anxieties. Introduce new rituals that can be linked to tradition. Mao Zedong, having faced setbacks with the Great Leap Forward, adeptly navigated China's attachment to tradition by associating his radical ideas with revered historical figures and events. By anchoring his campaign in familiar narratives, he allayed fears and bolstered his legitimacy. Exceptions to this strategy arise during periods of stagnation when people clamor for change rather than resist it. While initiating reforms, remain attuned to public sentiment and be prepared for eventual backlash. Law 46. Watch for envy. The law of power. Your talents and achievements will generate envy. The envious will work quietly against you. To forestall or mitigate envy, admit to a flaw or weakness, emphasize the role of luck, or downplay your talents. Envy is extremely dangerous. Recognize it and don't let it escalate. Your success inevitably breeds envy among those around you, and if left unchecked, it can evolve into a potent and damaging force. With few exceptions, your talents, achievements, and the admiration you receive will stir discomfort in others. This is because most individuals harbor inflated perceptions of their own abilities. Your success punctures their illusions, revealing their own shortcomings and mediocrity, which often ignites envy and feelings of inferiority. Envy may manifest in various forms, from veiled criticisms to exaggerated praise, or even covert attempts to undermine you. Signs of envy include sarcastic remarks, overt resentment, or subtle sabotage. The individuals closest to you, family, friends, peers, and acquaintances, are often the most susceptible to jealousy, as they directly witness your ascent. Though you may not initially detect the envy brewing around you, its effects will eventually manifest unless you learn to preempt or defuse it. Often, unwitting actions or behaviors on your part may inadvertently fuel envy. By cultivating awareness of your actions and tendencies, you can mitigate its effects. Here are 2 common ways people inadvertently stoke envy. 1. Publicizing their successes to evoke feelings of inferiority in others. 2. Flaunting exceptional talents or abilities, which can breed resentment rather than admiration. To prevent the escalation of envy, it's crucial to be mindful of certain pitfalls. 1. When benefiting from unexpected success, downplay your role and emphasize luck, without feigning insincerity. 2. Attaining positions of power often triggers envy. Mitigate it by downplaying ambition or highlighting the sacrifices it entails. 3. Avoid patronizing gestures towards those who envy you, as it can exacerbate their resentment. 4. Recognize that peers and colleagues, accustomed to a sense of equality, may be particularly susceptible to envy. Moreover, acknowledge the possibility of experiencing envy yourself towards those more successful than you. Channel this emotion into constructive action by using it as motivation to surpass your own goals. Here are some illustrative examples of effectively managing or failing to manage envy. The painter J.M.W. Turner, aware of the envy his talent aroused among fellow artists, temporarily toned down his colors to prevent alienating potential exhibitors. George Washington initially declined prominent positions offered to him, enhancing his popularity and mitigating envy. Sir Walter Raleigh's failure to address the envy he inspired contributed to his eventual downfall, despite his remarkable achievements. Joe Orton's success incited deep-seated envy in his partner Kenneth Halliwell, ultimately culminating in tragedy. Exceptions to this rule may arise when in a position of power, where aggressive defiance towards envious individuals may serve as a form of retaliation. Displaying disdain for their envy and openly showcasing your accomplishments can turn their torment into your triumph. Law 47. Know when to stop. The law of power. The moment of victory is a moment of danger because you're tempted to press your luck. Don't let emotions push you past your goal. Stop, consolidate your gains, and prepare for new, different circumstances. Once you've secured a triumph, the urge to push forward can be powerful and perilous. The capacity to resist this temptation, to halt, and to consolidate your gains sets apart the truly powerful from mere aspirants. The peril in victory lies thus. Up until that moment, you've operated within a strategic framework, granting you control over subsequent events. However, victory, with its accompanying euphoria, undermines this control for two reasons. 1. It urges you to forge ahead beyond your original strategy, which may no longer be optimal as your success was contingent on circumstances that may not recur. 2. Success breeds a sense of invincibility and emotionality, compelling you to make rash decisions that jeopardize or nullify your victory. Compounding this, those beneath you, similarly intoxicated, often pressure you to exceed your achievements, risking the loss of what you've gained. While victory may intoxicate, reason, not emotion, must guide your actions. The moment of triumph is the juncture to pause and reflect. Do not fall prey to the illusion that your success stems solely from your brilliance. Luck and transient circumstances played pivotal roles, and they are subject to change. Your fortunes will ebb and flow. Victory signals the need to open your eyes and prepare anew. A fresh strategy is imperative to retain control. Consider the example of France in the 1700s. A king's mistress typically enjoyed fleeting influence. Upon attaining her position, she often intensified tactics that secured her status. Ruthlessness towards rivals, manipulation, and intrigue. While effective momentarily, these tactics invariably backfired, leading to her downfall. Contrastingly, Madame de Pompadour, mistress to King Louis XV, adopted a different approach. Upon achieving her objective through meticulous planning, she refrained from further aggression and embraced a new strategy. Rather than launching offensives to eliminate rivals, she consolidated her power base, garnered support, even from the Queen, and remained adaptable to shifting circumstances, addressing them innovatively. Madame de Pompadour's success stemmed from her decision to halt upon victory and devise a new strategy suited to evolving conditions. Remarkably, she retained her position for an unprecedented 2 decades. Exceptions to this principle exist. Ensure you do not cease before decisively overcoming your adversaries. Yet, once achieved, avoid creating new foes by overreaching. Furthermore, guard against the fallacy of momentum, which is often exaggerated. Fear of losing momentum may impel irrational repetition of tactics that no longer serve, rather than strategic and reasoned action. Law 48. Be elusive. The law of power. Be flexible, fluid, and unpredictable, formless, so your opponents can't get a fix on you and figure out how to respond. When you look and behave in conventional ways that your enemy can grasp, you're easy to attack. Change constantly to suit ever-changing circumstances and needs. Embrace formlessness, the art of being flexible, fluid, and unpredictable, and your adversaries will struggle to grasp your essence. Formlessness is a strategic approach that affords you the freedom to maneuver, unveil surprises, and confound your opposition. It's a potent tool that amplifies your power. Resist being confined to a singular system, process, strategy, or approach. Adapt to suit your needs and the circumstances at hand. Guerrilla warfare epitomizes formlessness. T. Lawrence, a British officer and diplomat, embodied formlessness in his guerrilla tactics during the Arab revolt against the Ottoman Empire in World War I. Collaborating with the Arabs, he orchestrated a strategy where they seamlessly blended into the desert terrain, rendering themselves invisible targets. The Turks expended considerable effort in pursuit, yet the elusive Arabs remained concealed until they struck. Their indirect approach and evasive maneuvers proved victorious. Beyond warfare, formlessness finds utility across diverse arenas by frustrating adversaries who find no solid ground to assail. Liberated from rigid systems and fixed methodologies, you gain agility, perceive changes swiftly, and adeptly adapt. When pitted against a stronger, more rigid opponent, embrace formlessness and adaptability to catch them off guard. In social interactions, individuals leverage your visible emotions to decipher and manipulate you. React defensively, and your opponent seizes upon the vulnerability they've uncovered. Contrastingly, a neutral facial expression, formlessness, baffles scheming adversaries, leaving them uncertain how to proceed. James Rothschild, a German Jew navigating the hostile Parisian culture, exemplified formlessness by never taking attacks personally or betraying frustration or distress. By projecting a composed, inscrutable demeanor, he navigated and expanded his business amidst the shifting political landscapes of numerous monarchies. For centuries, the Japanese graciously accommodated foreigners without compromising their culture. Surface-level adoption of foreign customs concealed the resilience of their indigenous culture. By embracing a formless approach, they appeared receptive to external influences, depriving adversaries of targets. By remaining unreadable and elusive, you maintain the initiative, compelling adversaries to react continually to your maneuvers. Ancient Sparta's fate illustrates the perils of inflexible rigidity. Obsessed with cultivating an invincible infantry, Spartan society neglected all but martial pursuits. Despite triumphing over Athens in a protracted war, Sparta's dogmatic militarism faltered in the face of cultural shifts. Athenian prosperity and culture eroded Spartan discipline, leading to corruption and decline. 30 years post-Athenian conquest, Sparta suffered defeat against Thebes, precipitating its collapse.
Inflexibility sealed Sparta's fate.
Exceptions to this principle exist. While prioritizing flexibility and formlessness, there comes a time to concentrate power and strike, upon engaging the adversary. Yet, post-victory, resume adaptability and elusiveness.